What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We are back, baby, once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news. Streaming live for you guys today over on YouTube. Catch us on Facebook. We're also on Twitch. And believe it or not, going live over on TikTok today. We got some honorable mentions, some live viewer questions, and of course, 6 main topics for you guys today. We're going to be diving into Jason Momoa, talking about possibly hanging up the Trident for his last time with this upcoming Aquaman 2 movie. We got James Gunn discussing the casting of Superman Legacy as he continues to get pushback of maybe it being too many cast members. We also have a little bit of a Charlie Hunnam Green Arrow tease, if you will, and much more, guys. So let's go ahead and get into this week's episode. What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy Adam Perez here today with not the whole crew, but some of us here. What's going on, Stuart? Can you hear me okay, buddy?
I sure can. Did you play the intro? Because the intro didn't play on my end.
Yeah, I played the intro and everything, man.
Oh, that's so weird. It just did. I was so confused because on my end it just looked like we were just like kind of sitting there. That's really bizarre. That's never happened before.
Yeah, no, we definitely played the intro for sure. Came in hot, looking great over there, Stuart. Listen, man, we're doing something first for the first time today. For those of you who don't know, we are over on TikTok as well. If you want to follow us on TikTok, it's at Hero Report. To those that are watching over on TikTok Live, if you want to see an additional camera angle, go over to our YouTube page or overall on Facebook as well. We are streaming live, so you get to see not only my handsome face and what I'm talking about, but also Stuart's as well, my additional co-host. So yeah, if you want to see my face on 2 screens, check us out over on TikTok as well as YouTube and Facebook, or even Twitch if you guys are watching us today. So you might only get my half of what I'm talking about, but we got some amazing topics, guys, that we're going to be breaking down for you guys today. So wherever you're certainly joining us at, thank you so much, guys. If you like our content, you continue to support us, hit that like button, especially if you're in the live chat, guys. We definitely would appreciate all the support. Let's see who is joining us today, shall we? Let's give some quick shout outs to everybody in the live chat. And look, if you're in the live chat, just hit that like button real quick. As we go through these topics, we want to hear your points of views as well. Again, these are just simply our A-plus opinions, but at the end of the day, we certainly want to go ahead and know yours. So let your thoughts be known down below as well. Let's see here. Who else we got? We got Enrique Perez certainly in the house. He says, hey, Adam, just saw the first look trailer for Kung Fu Panda 4 starring Jack Black with the reveal of the new characters, including the Chameleon. I haven't had the opportunity to check out that trailer yet. Also, Pixar's Elemental, Disney's Wish, and Across the Spider-Verse have nominated. Super Mario Brothers have been nominated for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song. Peaches by Jack Black. I'm assuming these are for the Golden Globe Awards, Stuart, not the Oscars, right?
Yeah, not the Oscars. Usually the Oscars isn't until like a little bit, like I think March of next year.
Should be interested to see what some of the nominations are going to be when we get to the Oscars. We got Blossom in the house. Also, coming through with the super chat, Blossom. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate that. We got Usman over on TikTok. What's up, Usman? Appreciate you coming through today. But Blossom with the $2 super chat, TikTok. Holy macaroni. So didn't know that. Yeah, we've been trying to expand a little bit over on TikTok. For those of you who don't know, one of our fellow viewers and one of my good friends, AJ, also known as Melissa Benoist Loves Bacon, AJ is actually helping us out with our TikTok channel. So he's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting over there, posting a ton of content. I've been posting trailers and content as well from here and there. So him and I are kind of tag teaming it right now. So we're just expanding, man. We're expanding our reach and trying to utilize social media as best as we possibly can. Because like I'm 40 years old, and half the time I don't know what's happening with technology these days, Stuart. I feel like I'm becoming my parents. You know, I used to make fun of my parents all the time. Like, how could you not know that this works this way? And now that I'm trying to help them out with their cell phones as we get older. Now I feel like I need people to help me with my social media these days.
I totally feel that.
Yeah, I'm getting way too old for this shit. Who else we got in the house? Ram Jam certainly joining us. What's up, Ram Jam? We got Billy in the house too. She says, "Hey, Adam and Stuart, just stopping by, quick to say hi before I clock into work." Well, I hope you have a good day at work today, Billy. But again, listen, if you're watching us live, feel free to throw your thoughts in as we go through a lot of these topics. We always want to go ahead and bounce ideas and thoughts off of you guys. So we can't do the show without you guys. So let's see what we got here today, Stuart. Are you ready to go ahead and get into our first segment of the day?
Always.
Let's do this, man. Getting into our honorable mentions today, topics that we felt you deserve to certainly know about, but didn't quite make the cut in regards to our main topics that we are going to discuss today. Stuart, do you have any honorable mentions off the top of your head, buddy?
Honestly, I couldn't think of any, or I couldn't find any this week.
We got fear not, because we got plenty. We did get ourselves a brand new Madam Web poster that wind up dropping here this week, starring Dakota Johnson. Madam Web, the upcoming Sony Pictures and Marvel collaboration, is going to be dropping this upcoming February. So even though Marvel's only given us one film in Deadpool 3 in 2024, looks like we do have somewhat of a Marvel film here with Sony Pictures and Madam Web. You know, Stuart, I've kind of liked this new poster that we've got, but I feel like a lot of people are kind of crapping and shitting on it a little bit, saying that like, oh, anybody could have done this. I kind of dig the web design and the ability to put, you know, the cool way that they were able to put the character images in here, along with even their spider counterparts, if you will. I kind of appreciate this poster a little bit more than just some of the traditional posters that we've been getting lately that just literally just crams every single character onto one poster. I think the web design and stuff kind of works here for me, but it works for me at least. Does it work for you, Stuart?
Yeah, works for me. It feels like they're actually, trying to do something a little more creative than just having all the characters, pasted onto the poster.
Yeah, so I certainly didn't mind this one so much. And I think there's a solo one of Dakota Johnson out there. If anything, I would probably expect that we do get individual character posters at some point in time. What else did we have? Oh, we had a couple of trailers that wind up dropping this week. Did you happen to catch the Dune 2 trailer? We had a brand new one, I believe.
Oh no, I don't think I saw the new one.
You're more of the Dune guy than me personally. So, I wasn't sure if you had checked that out. Another trailer that we wind up getting this week, What If Season 2, the upcoming animated series once again for Marvel. What If Season 1 actually kind of surprised me. I was actually a really big fan of the animation. I was already kind of going into Season 1 with some levels of anticipation just from the trailers that we had gotten, the ability to see like Captain Carter. I just really appreciated the idea of like, really like multiversal concepts of a lot of these characters, and the ability for them to take some of these characters and even plug them into live action, I think for me was sort of worthwhile to go ahead and check out What If Season 1 in the first place. So when I see Season 2's trailer, I'm just looking back, Stuart, and trying to see like who would I love to see in sort of in live action, right? Like what characters have the potential of actually popping up there. What did you think about the What If 2 season trailer?
Liked it for the most part. I think it's going to be like season one in the sense that I think there's going to be some episodes that are really going to hit hard and be really good, but they may have a couple of duds in there, and that's totally fine. That's how I thought with season one. There were some really great episodes that I still rewatch today, but then there's also some episodes I haven't even gone back to just because they were just so forgettable, which is totally fine. It's great to have that balance.
Yeah, I think there's like maybe one or two returning characters that I see in here, maybe picking up on their story. Um, the Watcher's clearly back to continue to tell his stories and his tales. They did go ahead and drop a episode title reveal for us. So how this is going to work for season 2 is rather interesting. So the season begins December 22nd, but then they're going to be dropping one new episode a day for 9 days straight. So we're going to get 9 days straight of brand new What If episodes. Episode 1, Nebula joins the Nova Corps. We have episode 2, Peter Quill attacks or attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? Uh, Number 3, what if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? Episode 4, what if Iron Man crashed into the Grandmaster? We have episode 5. What if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? So, first off, I'm glad that Captain Carter's making a return. I wanted to personally see more of her in the Doctor Strange 2 movie that we wind up getting. But I was just really cool that they brought Haley Atwell in to even do this role in general. So, I'm glad that she's continuing her story here. What if this is for episode number 6? What if Kahori? I could butchering that name. What if Kahori reshaped the world? Episode 7, what if Hela found the 10 rings? That's a pretty interesting one.
Yeah.
We remember her from Thor Ragnarok. Episode 8, the Avengers assemble in 1602. That's an episode I am pumped to see, just based off of the incredible 1602 Marvel comic series that we wind up getting years ago. I think they had like 2 or 3 volumes worth of it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how something like that winds up getting adapted, Stuart. And then the last episode, episode 9, what if Strange Supreme intervened? So again, Strange Supreme also making a comeback, one of the darker tales, if you will, from the first season of What If. So the fact that his story continues to be told is pretty incredible for me.
Yeah, so I think out of all of these, definitely episodes 7 and 8 are the ones that have the most intriguing premise, I think. One bit of disappointment though.
You have
I
a
do
disappointment? What's
remember
up?
I do remember when the show was announced, when season 2 was announced, they had some concept art that they were showing off, and one of them was a sequel to the What If Zombies.
Oh yeah.
But they show one of the zombies being Icarus from oh crap, what was that called? Not the Inhumans, but you're muted. What were you saying?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just addressing the TikTok folks.
Oh yeah. So, anyways, yeah, so Icarus from why am I blanking on the names? Dang. Yeah, anyways, Icarus was supposed to be a zombie in one of the What If episodes, and so that would have been kind of cool getting like an evil Superman like zombie. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But regardless, episodes 7 and 8, especially episode 7, Hela getting the 10 rings, and I'm really curious how many other characters from Shang-Chi are going to appear, if we're going to get kind of like a Shang-Chi Thor kind of crossover for this episode. I think that's a really fun and unique premise to go with. And then, of course, Avengers is assembled in 1602. I always love it when multiverse stories play with timelines in that kind of way, because we have it with the Justice League. We have like Justice League comic books that take place in medieval times, so like you actually have like the Dark Knight as an actual knight, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I look forward to those.
Yeah, me too. I think for me, the standout episodes are definitely going to be the Captain Carter episode, which is episode 5. And like you, the last 7 or the last 3 episodes I'm looking forward to. So episodes 7, 8, and 9 definitely have my attention. I believe we're supposed to be getting ourselves a Marvel Zombies animated series on its own. So I'm not necessarily expecting Marvel Zombies for this season, but I would not be surprised if there's some really great storylines in here that maybe have some impact kind of going forward, whether that be in their own animated spinoffs or eventually coming in live action. But some characters from season 1 getting their stories continued and some fresh takes as well. And I think this week, speaking of animated Marvel, I believe they also announced a Black Panther series. Let me see if I can find that bit of information for you guys, because I was kind of surprised that this popped up on my timeline. But yeah, here we go. Eye of Wakanda, the Black Panther animated series revealed. They held a special screening for the first 2 episodes of What If, and during an event, the studio officially announced an animated Eyes of the Wakanda series was in the works and expected to release on Disney Plus in 2024. It says, the description says, throughout Wakandan history, brave warriors have been tasked to travel the world retrieving dangerous vibranium artifacts. This is their story. And I believe oh goodness, why am I blanking on his name? The director from the Ryan Coogler, I believe, is actually like an executive producer, or at least helping develop this as well. So I'm looking forward to it. Eyes of Wakanda. What do you think about that description, Stuart? Throughout Wakanda history, brave warriors have been tasked to travel the world retrieving dangerous vibranium artifacts. This is their story. Does this feel kind of like anthology sort of setup, or you think it's going to be a concurrent storyline all the way through?
Sounds like it's they're going for an anthology, but it also sounds like if they get like a season 2, they may try to have it be a little more focused on, whatever characters people connected to the most.
Right. Yeah, you might be on there, be onto something there. And if anything, I think this might give us the opportunity to maybe see other Black Panthers in history too, possibly. So we'll see how that plays out. And then last but not least, for our honorable mentions for the day, we did get ourselves a teaser trailer for Beverly Hills Cop 4. Um, that is set to go ahead and drop this summer on 2024 with the returning Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley. I believe it's titled Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, if I'm not mistaken. But we did get ourselves a brand new teaser trailer for it, our very first look at the project. Stuart, did you happen to check this out at all by any
I
chance?
did indeed.
What were your thoughts on it?
Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Just like so I never saw the second or third movie, but I did see the first one, and I can definitely feel like a lot of callbacks to the first movie. Definitely like people trying to say, okay, let's do this. It's that kind of cliche. Let's do this by the books. No more blowing stuff up. Oh yeah, no. What kind of person do you think I am? And then one moment later, of course, action scene, everything blows up. The kind of comedy that I love. So yeah, it looks like something that'll be a lot of fun.
um, I will say it was fun to kind of go down nostalgia road real quick and see like some familiar faces, like him in the backseat of the police car with his two cop buddies in the front. I've always been a big fan of just their chemistry and how they bounce off of one another. So that was kind of cool to kind of see their little witty banter and stuff towards the end. And then even the guy, I can never remember the actor's name, but I just, for some reason, when I see him, I just know him as was it Balky from Perfect Strangers? I believe it was old ABC show, Perfect Strangers. But I think it's the clothing designer or whatever the case may be that he might have met back in like Beverly Hills Cop 2 and 3. He pops back up in here very, very briefly. But to be honest with you, Stuart, I didn't care for this trailer, man.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
I honestly did not care for this Beverly Hills Cop trailer. You know, I don't know if it's just the times have caught up with this franchise. I don't know the direction in which Netflix is taking this film, but there was a part of me that was like, I wanted to go back and watch the previous trailers for the first three Beverly Hills Cops, right? And while there's tons of action in those trailers, there's also a lot of levity and humor and some really great sort of Eddie Murphy moments that just make you laugh in the middle of sort of seeing the action and whoever the villain certainly is, sort of thing. This trailer for me just felt a little too dark. And again, I don't know if it's because we're in 2023, so the circumstances have changed, right? Axel Foley's a little bit older. Maybe he takes himself a little bit more seriously. I think I just wanted to see more Eddie Murphy and more Axel Foley in this trailer than what we got. And maybe that's something that they'll kind of like spread out more when we get to an official trailer. Again, this is just a teaser trailer. So yeah, we got our action, yada, 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 a couple lines of dialogue, but it didn't really do anything for me and be like, yeah, Axel Foley that I know is back. It just felt a little darker. And I really would have loved it to be a little bit more lightened up with more of a mixture of Eddie Murphy's comedy in there than just the action, if that makes sense. So, again, this is just a teaser trailer. I am looking forward to seeing what the official trailer is, and maybe that trailer will make me feel a little bit different. But this trailer just didn't do anything for me, man, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think what it has to do is the time that it's coming out because, back when the other Beverly Hills Cops came out, what the third one came out, it was still late '90s, correct?
I don't remember. It might have been the Beverly Hills Cop 3 might have come out in like early 2000s.
Oh, really? Never mind. I guess kind of my argument still
Maybe
stands,
I
which is that
haven't looked it up.
trailers are just made very differently, like every 10 years.
You're
There's
right.
like
You're
always
right.
like kind of a different standard. So I think that's what it kind of comes down to. I don't think it'll don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say, oh no, you're incorrect for not liking the trailer. I'm just saying that might be why it's different. And I do think it I don't think just because like the trailer is different, I don't think it'll like impact the overall quality of the movie. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say this movie isn't going to try to take itself too seriously. Like I'm sure it'll have like its no nonsense type villains, and that the stakes may be bigger because it's the fourth movie. But at the end, I'm sure it's going to still have that like kind of comedy heart to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want people to misunderstand me. I'm just talking about the trailer itself. Like, this movie could be great. I'm just saying, as far as trailer wise, it just didn't do anything for me. But I would agree with you. Trailers are certainly made a lot differently than what they used
Yeah.
to. I mean, I went back and watched the trailer for Beverly Hills Cop 2, and they have the movie voice guy, talking over the trailer sort of thing. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't heard this voice in forever. So yeah, they're absolutely correct in how they're done differently. So we'll see how this trailer goes. And just to correct myself, Stuart, Beverly Hills Cop 3 came out in 1994, so you were right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're right. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. If you had the opportunity to check out Beverly Hills Cop 4 trailer, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. We definitely would love to know what you guys thought about the trailer. Are you excited for the return of Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below.
Also, one last thing before we move on from honorable mentions, I think you were right. I think the photo that I saw was actually a promotion for the upcoming Marvel Zombie series and not meant to be for What If. So,
Gotcha.
yay, my complaint is retracted.
And real quick, to those watching us over on TikTok, again, if you would like to see the other side of this view or to actually see Hero Report in its fullest, check us out over on our YouTube page, Facebook, or Twitch as well. All right, Stuart, are you ready to go ahead and get into these main topics with me, man?
Hells yeah.
Let's do it, man. So let's go ahead and get into our first topic. And we like to start off with our comic book genre topics. First and foremost, Jason Momoa, Aquaman himself, is back in the news. There's been months of speculation that when it comes to Jason Momoa, that this would in fact sort of be his last Aquaman film. He has teased, I think there have been rumors for a while, Stuart, about the idea of could Jason Momoa turn out to be Lobo in the brand new James Gunn DCU? There's been speculation. I believe Jason Momoa has come out and said he has met with James Gunn in regards to what his future involvement certainly is going to be. And it feels very much like it's a dream come true for him, if you will. So it looks like he is moving on to bigger and better things. But just to kind of confirm that, he actually had the opportunity to sit down with Entertainment Tonight and really clarify his future as Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, after the release of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. So I think this was on everybody's mind for quite some time, even though James Wan has talked about the idea that there's much more Aquaman story to tell. He clearly, if just based off of the trailers alone, you can see how expansive this Aquaman world has certainly become. And I think that's something that Jason Momoa even comments on. But it seems very much like the timing, maybe not on James Wan or Jason Momoa's side. So let's go ahead and dive into this article, Stuart. This actually comes to us from Entertainment Tonight, saying Jason Momoa on the fate of Aquaman and future films. And I quote, "It's not looking good," is what he says. This is an exclusive report, etonline.com. It says Jason Momoa is having the time of his life playing the iconic DC superhero Aquaman. However, the beloved actor and action hero seems to have his doubts about the future of the franchise. He recently sat down with ET's Ash Crossan in London while promoting the upcoming Aquaman 2 film. And he addressed reports that this is likely the last time he plays the King of Atlantis. He goes on to say, "I don't necessarily want it to be the end, but I don't think it's really like a choice, is what Jason Momoa said, explaining that James Gunn and Peter Safran, who were recently tapped to lead the future DC Films project, want to start their own new thing. It says the truth of it is, I mean, if the audience loves it, then there's a possibility, is what he says, Stuart, about an Aquaman 3. He says Momoa said of the chance that he might play Aquaman in the future, but right now I'm like, it's not looking too good. So I am kind of, before we go on there, Stuart, I am kind of curious. Do you think that that's him talking about the idea that the box office ain't looking too good right now, so it's a really slim chance, or you truly think that maybe they have just jumped this shark and they're ready to move on to new things?
I think, yeah, it's the latter. They're just ready to move on to new things. I think that unless this movie hits like unpredictably high numbers, like if it becomes like, not just like in the billions, but if it actually like passes Aquaman 1, unless that happens, I really don't see them continuing Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Even if this movie does like decent, I think James Gunn is at this point pretty committed to restarting everything with the exception of the Peacemaker cast, and wanting to have a complete fresh slate when it comes to the new DC universe.
Yeah, I can definitely see that as well. The article does go on to say, he says, I love this character and I would want to play it for a long time. I kind of see where I want it to go. And even in the next 10 years or so, like there's a lot of cool things they can do. And I do enjoy the role and the world. So I mean, it just comes down to if people love it. But when Momoa first took the role back in 2017, and turned him into a truly cool, gritty hero, a feat Momoa proudly says was a really hard goddamn thing to do. He says, but it's also fun to just be the reluctant king. And then, getting past all of his ego and seeing him realizing what he's meant to do. And it says, however, as Gunn and Safran rebuild the cinematic universe, Momoa hopes to remain part of their plans. He says, if there's a place in their world for me, I would love to be a part of it. This is my home. Warner and DC is definitely my home. So that's all I'll say. And so, yeah. It says, and that being said, playing Aquaman is near and dear to his heart, not something that he hopes to give up. When asked what playing the character means, he says, if I just put it in the simplest terms, it makes my heart smile. He says, I had roles before. He says, I had roles before, but they're nothing like this. You have kids coming up really excited to see me and adults. But at the end of the day, my passion growing up was always about the oceans and being Polynesian and being an activist. It's cool because I get to like do that in my real life and play Aquaman. Also, obviously puts those interests on a higher platform. He's definitely not right. He's definitely not wrong in that regards, Stuart. His role as Aquaman has definitely catapulted him. He was already an activist, but him landing this role definitely has just given him a much bigger platform for him to really use that to get his voice out even a little bit more. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe he had a pretty significant hand in the direction in which the story for Aquaman 2 certainly went. So I definitely expect there to be some save the ocean themes in here for sure. Jason Momoa really tapping into his heritage here as a Polynesian. So I can see his connection to this character for sure. And I've never felt like he's ever wanted to walk away from it, despite his dream of maybe being Lobo, in the future at some point in time. I've never been under the impression that he's tired of playing this character, very similar to that of like Chris Hemsworth when it comes to his role as Thor. I feel like he really would love to sink his teeth into this. And I really like the combination of Jason Momoa along with James Wan together. So I can't lie, Stuart. I am a little bit bummed that we're not going to get the opportunity to see more of these two working together, but you can definitely hear his passion in here, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you can even see it like on the big screen. Like, even though he has a lot of fun with the role, that doesn't mean he doesn't take it seriously, and that he definitely gives it like his all pretty much when he goes into the role of Aquaman.
Yeah, man. So I'm eager to see what they do here. Again, a little bit bummed that we're not gonna possibly see him, but I appreciate him at least being forward with it and letting us know that this potentially could be the last time. If there was any speculation and hope that I certainly might have had for an Aquaman 3, I'm just gonna go ahead and put my expectations to the side now, since they have much bigger and better things certainly coming. But yeah, I just thought it was pretty eye opening of some of the things that Jason Momoa had to say about playing this character. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And this movie drops this week, Stuart. Do you have your
Dang.
tickets yet?
No, I did not. I completely forgot this movie was coming out. Hopefully if it comes to my theater, I'll just watch it for free.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and see if I can pick up some tickets if there's some still available. I don't know if I should check it out in IMAX or Dolby or what. Is this film? Was this filmed in IMAX? Do you know?
I think so. They usually are most of the DC movies.
I might have to check it out in IMAX then first before I check it out in Dolby. But some interesting words here from Jason Momoa, teasing the idea of him hanging up his trident for the last time. Let us know your thoughts, guys, down below on saying farewell to Jason Momoa. Are you going to miss him as this particular character? Certainly go ahead and let us know in the comment section box below.
For me, I wouldn't quite say I'm gonna like miss him per se as this role, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy him as Aquaman. Like I thought, both in his own movie and of course, actually, you know what? I'll even say this. This may be a hot take. As much as I loved him in the Snyder Cut, I actually thought he was like really, really good in the Snyder Cut. But I also didn't think he was bad in the Joss Whedon cut either. I feel like he's one of the few actors that still kind of gave it his all when Joss Whedon came on to take over for Justice League. So, you know, I think like throughout all of his performances as Aquaman throughout the DCU, he's done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think so too. I really loved him. I think he's been a great standout, especially just with the article stated, right? The idea of having to make Aquaman cool again is not necessarily the easiest task, but he certainly went ahead and pulled it off. And you know, made people actually care about a character that just simply talks to fish. So I think they did a pretty good job. I feel like this definitely feels like the end of an era. But you know, the other person that really stood out to me during this DC EU time period, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I thought she was a really great casting choice for sure. I still want a third Wonder Woman movie involving her, which is interesting to me, Stuart. You know, she had been doing the rounds, doing interviews, talking about she had to sit down with James Gunn and Peter Safran about the idea of like, you know, they want to do a project with me. You know, we're going to sit down and talk more about it. And James Gunn, since then, now that the actor strike and the writer strike's over, he hasn't come out and confirmed or said anything. Everybody's been pretty quiet in that regards. And it does make me wonder, like, maybe she doesn't get the opportunity to have a last hurrah, or maybe her last hurrah was in the Flash. So yeah, I don't know if I see any of these characters returning. You know, I felt pretty adamant and pretty sure that, yeah, Gal Gadot definitely is going to come back. But now I definitely am having my second thoughts about
I definitely feel bad for any actor whose last hurrah was the Flash movie.
it.
Thankfully, Jason Momoa gets his final Aquaman movie.
Yeah, because I mean, look, if Jason Momoa as Arthur Curry that we see at the post credit scenes at the end of the Flash when he's just drunk face down in the puddle on the side of the street, if that was going to be the last time I see Aquaman, I would have been highly disappointed. But I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to this movie. You know, the first one made $1 billion. While I certainly don't expect this movie to make $1 billion, I do expect sort of that same level of fun and adventure. And I think James Wan is going to have that ability to really bring us into this world, if you will, and allow us to just really have a fantastic time. So each trailer that I've seen continues to look better and better. Then again, you can make any trailer make a movie look great. It really comes down to what the film is going to be. But I'm kind of expecting at least going into this movie with a level of fun.
Yeah.
That's my
I
expectation.
I especially look forward to the dynamic between Aquaman and his brother because I always love. It's so weird. This is so very specific, but it's happened now 3 times in comic book form where you have the good guy teaming up with his evil brother for a common cause, and then it like slowly turns their brother into a good guy because it's happened in Thor, and now it's happened in Superman and Lois, and now it's happening in Aquaman.
Yeah, making your brother first, eventually first a villain, now your best bud. So yeah, this is definitely going to be one of those bromance kind of adventures. So I'm looking forward to seeing what their chemistry is like on screen together. All right. With that topic out of the way, let's stay in the realm of DCU as James Gunn is back in the news. And Stuart, look, we literally just did an article last week, a segment talking about the cast of Superman Legacy. James Gunn continues to announce more and more cast members. Let me see if I even have that photo still from last week. Do I still have it? Yes. The cast for Superman Legacy continues to grow. And what also continues to grow, Stuart, is the pushback that James Gunn continues to get from some fans who worry about the idea that Superman Legacy is overstuffed. You're putting way too many characters in there. Is this even a Superman movie anymore? And while I personally very much think that it is a Superman Legacy movie still, James Gunn came out this week to go ahead and defend not only the cast that he has in here, along with the characters, but really pushing back on what makes Superman Legacy different from some of the other films that we've recently gotten that he refers to, Stuart, and this is his terms, not mine, cameo porn. And how it's really kind of ruined superhero movies. So let's go ahead and dive into this. This is an article, I believe, from The Hollywood Reporter. It says James Gunn says meaningless cameos are one of the worst elements of recent superhero movies. So let's see what James Gunn is talking about here. He says James Gunn is defending the cast that he has assembled for Superman
Hang
Legacy.
on. I just
What you got?
gotta point out something really, really funny about this.
What's up, Stuart?
And I'm sure it was just because he's the head CEO, so he has to say what he's supposed to say. But it's so weird hearing this from the guy who said that he thought the Flash movie was incredible.
That's true. I'm
Uh,
pretty, yeah. I wonder if he would love to take back that tweet. But listen, he's a company man, Stuart, right? He's a
mhm.
company man. You can't say you gotta make some of that money back. You can't be like, this movie's trash, y'all. Don't go see this film. He's got to say those things. So I totally agree with you, though. It is kind of funny. Um, James Gunn is defending the cast he has assembled for Superman Legacy after fans expressed concerns about the film, including too many characters. The co-head of DC Studios took to Threads to explain that he is building a whole universe rather than just having comic book characters appear on screen for just a few seconds. He says the whole point was it's not a large film. I mean, not in terms of the cast. It's normal for single protagonist films to have other characters, much more unusual for them not to. Gunn added that he feels meaningless cameos are actually hurting the superhero genre, and the characters should have a reason to be in a movie. He says, I call that cameo porn, and it has been one of the worst elements of recent superhero films. If a character is in a film, they have to have a reason to be there story wise. He continued, I don't mind actual cameos. If it's a glimpse or a moment, an Easter egg. What bothers me is when they mangle an elegant story by shoehorning characters in. They aren't there because the story calls for it, but for some other reason. He says Gunn's comments came amid this year's superhero fatigue, following several flops like The Flash, Shazam 2, and The Marvels. So Stuart, you hear what James Gunn is saying here. He doesn't mind actual cameos if it's a glimpse or a moment or an Easter egg, but it's when they mangle an elegant story by shoehorning characters in that aren't there because the story calls for it, but for some other reason. And again, he points out the idea that he doesn't believe that his film is overstuffed. It's normal for single protagonist films to have other characters, and much more unusual for them not to. Any thoughts on what James Gunn has to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think he brings up a good point. I'm very curious. Like, I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't be the kind of person that would name movies specifically, especially because he wants to keep like a good relationship between Marvel and DC. But I am very curious which movies specifically he's talking about, because when I hear the phrase cameo porn, which is a funny phrase by the way, my mind goes to The Flash and Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, no, I do think that that is a really good point that he made, and I do think that that's one of the things, especially with Multiverse of Madness, when they have all these cameos, but they also have a story they're trying to tell, and they're trying to mingle the two of them, and it just didn't work as well as I'm sure they wanted it to. I fully agree with what he's saying. I don't think it's like the big thing that's I wouldn't say it's the worst thing in superhero movies, but it's definitely not something that it's not going to be win fans over the way that like studios that produce these movies think it's going to.
Yeah, I would agree with you. If anything, when it comes to superhero movies, I'm trying to think of like a situation where that felt that way. Maybe like Doctor Strange 2, I kind of felt that way for
Yeah.
sure. Just cameos upon cameos for no elegant reason, because it does in turn sort of make that movie kind of feel very disjointed. Um, I do want to get a couple of
Oh,
comment.
here's another one that I
Oh, I'm
actually
sorry. Go
kind
ahead.
of agree with. I keep like I feel like I've been crapping on Shang-Chi the last couple times we've been talking about Marvel, even though I love Shang-Chi as a movie. But I think it's just because it's such a great movie, and that the decisions that are clearly made from Disney and not from the director are just so apparent they stand out. So I think this is one that really stands out, is when you get like both Wong and Abomination in Shang-Chi during that like whole Fight Club scene. Like, I wouldn't say it takes away from the movie, but it's so clear that that wasn't a director decision. That was a Disney being like, "Hey, marketing, do this."
Like for me, it didn't. For me, that didn't bother me. The Wong and Abomination appearing in Shang Chi. If anything, I did feel like just watching that clip that there was more story to be told there, at least for those two characters. And the payoff does come in something like She-Hulk. So it does feel like there's a reason, but it kind of felt like a harmless cameo. For me, it didn't necessarily take away from the movie itself, but it felt like it maybe was building up to something else that again clearly we see in She-Hulk. And if anything, again, I personally didn't feel like it took away too much, but I'm sure for some people it certainly might have. Frankie
Yeah,
does say,
I'll say like it didn't like take away, but it just stood out. Is all I'm saying.
I get you. Yeah, I totally get you. Frankie W says, I don't think Gunn. What? I don't dig Gunn for being a cheerleader for the Flash movie, and that he's still a, I don't know, he must have incompleted his text there.
Mm.
Um but yeah, I like when I look at Superman Legacy just doesn't bother me with its cast. I mean, there are some people that can take on big ensemble casts. I mean, you look at Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I mean, that's a whole entire team. But there are plenty of movies that he has had to deal with that, even though they're team based, there's usually like your main lead character and everybody else surrounding it. And so I think when it comes to something like Superman Legacy, the idea that he is building a universe, it just makes sense to me that we come into a world where things are sort of already established. And it doesn't feel like he's using these characters simply as cameos, but perhaps in order to progress the story forward. And we talked about this last week, Stuart, right? Like, I can easily see Superman having a struggle with the villain or finding a clue that's something that might, unravel to something bigger, but he needs some sort of assistance in allowing it to kind of come together. So he needs to go to somebody like, say, Mr. Terrific. Maybe he's over in Star Labs. Maybe Metamorphose there also, as they're testing out some theories for all I know. And you can easily see Superman coming in there and then having a 5 to 10 minute moment on screen that helps push the story forward, but not feeling like they're naturally just shoehorned in there. And so I just think if you take a step back and you look at every other movie that we watch, like minus one, Stuart, right? Like
Mhm.
we had the main character But then we also had, the scientist that helps him. We have the engineer at the end that comes back to help him. He's got the woman that he brings in, and that scientist has two other people, right? So you were already talking 5 to 6 other co-characters in this movie that don't take away from the main protagonist's story. I think if anything, it's probably just more glaring here because they're superheroes. And because they're
Mhm.
superheroes, you expect them to automatically have much bigger roles than they necessarily don't need. And so it just really depends on how James Gunn utilizes them. But I think that's the freak out. The fact that this is a superhero movie and you're adding more superheroes. If these were just generic characters that were being cast and introduced, I don't know if anybody blinks an eye, but I think it's because of the fact that it's a superhero movie and these are other superheroes. They worry about this becoming a different type of film than just a Superman film.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that you kind of make there, is that it's just an ensemble cast and we look at it as a
That's all
team
it
up
is.
movie because they're superheroes. But in actuality, when you go by what James Gunn has been saying about this movie, it is a Superman legacy movie. Bring up the characters real quick because I actually just thought of something, a way like they could all be utilized in the story. I'm not saying this is how it's going to happen, but I could say just from the fact that if we have like a character like Brainiac per se as the villain. Obviously, you mentioned Star Labs, so that's where probably Mr. Terrific would come in. You might have, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern being the one to warn them about Brainiac. You then have Hawkgirl helping out because her mace can attack Kryptonians. And then you have Metamorpho because one of his things is that he can actually turn into kryptonite, basically produce energy of kryptonite. And given that, some continuities have a Brainiac that comes from Krypton, kryptonite would theoretically affect, Brainiac, and so you would need that along with the help of Mr. Terrific to take him down. This is just like an example I could think of off the top of my head. I didn't spend years writing this movie like James Gunn did, so I'm sure if these characters are in there, he has a very specific story purpose for them being in there, just like that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think they'll, like you said, I think they'll all play their part in here. Like I can easily see Star Labs members here. I can either easily see Guy Gardner, like you mentioned, maybe just introducing us to the Green Lantern Corps in general. Hawk Woman, like you mentioned, with the different materials and her being, from space. Maybe the nth metal gets introduced in here and they
Yeah.
break it down a little bit more for us and how it plays into sort of the bigger world. So I'm really not worried. Like I'm really not concerned. Again, I just think the fact that they're superheroes is what is frightening people when at the end of the day we should just look at these as traditional side characters that are just going to be utilized to help move the plot along. And if anything, again, just establish the fact that we're coming into a world that's already established for us. This isn't very much a origin film by any stretch of the imagination. So I think there's a lot to certainly play with around here. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? She says Guy Gardner, haven't heard that lantern in a while. Yeah, Guy Gardner doesn't get enough love, if you
Mhm.
ask me, Stuart. But yeah, big things certainly to come when it comes to the DCU.
I think the only time I've seen him outside the comic books was in Young Justice when they had that one joke where they're looking for more league members. Someone brings up Guy Gardner, John Stewart, and Hal Jordan before they even finish. Just say no.
But look, guys, we want to know your thoughts. James Gunn defending his cast when it comes to Superman Legacy. He clearly doesn't believe that it's too large. Very normal for single protagonist films to have multiple characters in it. What do you guys think in regards to it? Should he be careful how he uses cameos? Do you agree with his take on the idea that cameos could be holding down films from being better than what they potentially could be? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below.
Oh, I stand
Um,
corrected. He was also in the Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon series. I need to
oh,
watch that at some
nice,
point.
Marcelino.
It's been on my list for a while.
Yeah, that's one I don't think I've ever. I think that's one animated series I did not check out. All right, from Superman, we're gonna move over to Green Arrow, Stuart. And no, I don't mean Stephen Amell, but good old Charlie Hunnam is actually in the news this week. I guess there have been reports and speculation for a while, maybe some people fan casting, if you will, who the next Green Arrow potentially could be. And if you're not a fan of Stephen Amell, some people probably have been falling back on Charlie Hunnam in that particular role, simply based off of just his looks. I mean, Stuart, the guy looks like Oliver Queen, if you ask me. Just put a green beret on his head and just get him ready, put a bow and arrow on him, and he's ready to go.
I was gonna say like there when he has long hair, because I just looked him up on Google Images. There are some photos of him where he suddenly kind of looks like Brad Pitt until you stare at him for like more than 2 seconds. But like on first glance, I just see Brad Pitt.
Yeah, Charlie Hunnam's definitely got a particular look about him for sure. But I will say this: as the ever-growing DCU continues to build, I feel like we never know, Stuart, when we're gonna get some sort of announcement or a new superhero announced in James Gunn's universe. And so while we wait to see if Green Arrow is even involved in some manner or not, it seems as though, according to Charlie Hunnam, somebody has approached him to be Green Arrow. And some of you may be disappointed in regards to what his response was. So let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart. This comes to us from comicbook.com. This is, in fact, an exclusive. Charlie Hunnam confirms he was offered DC's Green Arrow role. So let's go ahead and dive into this. This says, for years, many DC fans have touted Sons of Anarchy and Rebel Moon star Charlie Hunnam as their ideal casting for Oliver Queen and his Green Arrow superhero alter ego. While Hunnam and Zack Snyder, have finally come together for Netflix's Rebel Moon, they never discussed working together during Snyder's time with DC films. However, someone did indeed offer Hunnam the role. So he was offered the role at one point. Hunnam talked to comicbook.com at the Rebel Moon press event, where Hunnam revealed that he was at one point given the opportunity to play Green Arrow. He says, I never talked to Zack about it. Honestly, I don't remember who. It was some people in suits brought the idea to me and thought it would be terribly exciting for me to play Green Arrow, and I did not share their enthusiasm. He says it's unclear when Hunnam was approached for the role, whether it was for Snyder's era of the franchise or more recently for James Gunn initiative, which is filling out many superheroes and villains to relaunch DC's universe. Either way, Hunnam doesn't seem to be keen on joining the superhero franchise, regardless of who's running the show. He says, I don't know who Green Arrow is, so I don't want to offend anyone. I looked at one picture and I was like, I'm not sure green's my color, and I'm pretty sure spandex isn't my material. Beyond that, I was like, one image, thanks, not interested. And Stuart, look, you know what? I can't blame Charlie Hunnam here. I mean, look, if you showed me Oliver Queen in some tights and the Green Arrow was like, do you want to play this character? Hell no, I don't want to play that character. But especially if you don't know the character, just going off of first looks. But I think if Charlie Hunnam were to certainly dig into Green Arrow a little bit more, he might be up for the role. But to be frank with you, Stuart, I don't blame him. I don't blame him for passing up on it. If anything, again, we don't know when Charlie Hunnam was actually even asked to be Green Arrow. There's a part of me, if he says it's not with Zack, then that means it's gotta have been with the management after Zack Snyder, that time period of sort of DC movies not really sure where they want to go. And or the James Gunn DCU that we have yet to see. So the first thing that comes to my head, Stuart, is if I'm Charlie Hunnam and I'm seeing all these superhero movies flopping at the box office, and they haven't been as stellar as they were after Endgame. No, I don't want to get attached to that. I don't want to get attached to that. And honestly, Stuart, it would not surprise me if we eventually get to the point to where more, and like before, it almost used to be a foregone conclusion. You want to be in a superhero movie? Absolutely, sign me up. Right? You knew it was a big payday, you knew it was going to get your name out there, people were going to love you. But now that we're in a different time period when it comes to comic book movies, now that when people have been, producers and studios been letting off the gas a little bit, allowing movies to just be whatever they are type of thing, they're starting to see the result at the box office, and people are not necessarily pleased. So if I'm Charlie Hunnam, I don't want to get attached to a comic book superhero movie anytime soon, unless that script comes in and it is a banger. And so I don't blame Hunnam for maybe being a little bit cautious and getting involved. But again, to his quote, he didn't know who the character was, just going based off of first impressions. But I think if Charlie knew, I think he might be a little bit more open to it. But Stuart, let me ask you, now that we do see sort of the changing of the guard here, James Gunn coming in, we've had some really great casting announcements for some of the superheroes involved. Even though Charlie Hunnam now says he doesn't want to be a Green Arrow, you know what we say around here, never say never. Um, I am kind of curious as to, do you think he'll eventually pick it up if James Gunn approaches him? Do you think James Gunn has already approached him, or do you think he's already made up his mind here for sure?
Oh, and this doesn't sound like a I made up my mind type of thing. This just sounded like a at the moment I am not interested. That doesn't sound appealing to me. But it also sounded like something where like if someone could pitch him something really cool, he would he seems like the kind of person that might be down for it. Yeah, I think if he ended up taking the role of the Green Arrow, if he ended up like as long as he was actually committed to doing a good job of it and like doing not saying he has to read every Green Arrow comic book ever, but if he were to like watch an episode or two of Arrow and then read a couple like the more popular Green Arrow comic book runs, yeah, I think this guy definitely would have what it takes to be a good Green Arrow. While I always appreciate when they hire fans to play a certain character, I don't think that should be a requirement. I always think that that's just always a good a good perk if they have that. If it shouldn't be a definitive factor. So I think that this guy saying he knows nothing about the Green Arrow shouldn't be a factor against him at all. But yeah, it's something I could see happening in the future, but I'm not 100% sure on because I feel like with Green Arrow, he's the kind of character they might cast really young with, and probably someone in their like early 20s, if I had to guess, kind of like what they're doing with Superman. But yeah, overall, I think yeah, it would be an interesting casting if they went with it, but I don't really see it happening personally.
Yeah, I don't really see it happening either. I wouldn't mind it. I
Yeah.
hope it is something that does happen. But I would agree. It doesn't seem like it's a foregone conclusion. But like Frankie says here, he says, I think you should try and stay gracious as much as possible. You never know when you get down on your luck and you might need it. And I do feel like Charlie is being gracious here. I mean, I feel like he is, like he even says in one of his lines, he's like, I don't mean to offend. It's just the idea that I don't know the character, and just based off of one image, sort of like I'm not interested. And so I do think that if it were brought back up to him and he were to see sort of the bigger plan scheme that maybe James Gunn might have, he might be a little bit more open to it. But time will tell. But I would agree with you, Frankie, right? You never want to burn your bridges. I think that's one of the things that we talked about, especially when Stephen Amell took over or finished his time as Arrow. He felt very much about the idea of like, I'm washing my hands clean. Like I'm done with that. I've given them sort of like 8 years or 9 years of my life sort of thing. It felt very much like he was brushing off the show and, the what it elevated him to sort of mentality. And what we said there at the time was, don't burn your bridges, man, right? Like you might be done with the character. You say that now, but in a year or two, your finances might look a little bit different, right? Those casting calls may be a little bit more dry on your side, and you might need that paycheck sort of thing. So again, I don't think Charlie Hunnam is being disrespectful at all. It just feels very much like he doesn't really know about the character. So I hope it happens. Charlie Hunnam, Stephen Amell, I'll take them as a Green Arrow on the big screen any day. But who knows? Maybe James Gunn has somebody else in mind for him to tackle. And shout out to Blossom again with the super chat, coming through with the $2 today. Thank you so much. She says, this dude doesn't look like Brad to me.
Just on first glance is what I meant to say. Like, because when I looked his name in on Google, there was like a half a second where I thought I was looking like the images that were popping up was of Brad Pitt. And, when I looked at him for like actually like 2 seconds, that's when that went away. But I think it's just like the shape of his jaw.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it for sure. Frankie says, or with Jacob Elordi talking down
That one was
the
funny
Superman
though.
audition. Who's
Uh,
Jacob Elordi?
The dude from Euphoria. So his reason for turning down Superman was because he just thought the character was too dark, and
Mm,
it all just kind of comes down to the fact that because of the way Superman's just been written in recent movies, that's kind of like what younger people. That's like younger people's perception of Superman is that he's a dark, tragic character,
mm.
with no light at the end of with no light at the end of the tunnel, which is like the exact opposite of Superman. But that's the kind of Superman we've been getting a lot. So it makes sense that someone his age would think that. But I'm hoping, with James Gunn's Superman movie, people will have a new idea of Superman as a character. But one more thing I wanted to ask you though with
What's
him.
up?
Do you think the movie he turned down was Birds of Prey? Because I was like thinking of what movie he could have possibly fit into. The only one that really kind of comes to mind is Birds of Prey, mostly because you got the Black Canary in there, and the
Hmm.
two of them, of course, are a thing in the comic books.
That's definitely a possibility. Like if I had to guess as to where Green Arrow was going to pop up anywhere in some of the previous DC films, either that or I don't want, I was going to say Suicide Squad. But I think Birds of Prey might be another good option there. But then again, it's one of those things that's like, well, what type of role would he have had in Birds of Prey, right? It might have been so minuscule. So there's a part of me that says maybe there was a movie on tap, or maybe they were just asking in terms of if we were to do one day, and maybe just never got to fruition. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So definitely plenty of opportunities. Shout out to the girlfriend for certainly coming through today as well. Hard at work this Sunday as we lead into the last week before Christmas. My God, this is just catching up on me so quick, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys,
Years
let us know
just
your
keep going by
thoughts.
faster every year.
And just to bounce off a real quick, Frankie's comment about Jacob Elordi, I would agree with you in regards to that comment for sure. But I do think Jacob's comments and Charlie's are two completely different approaches to it. Do you think so too, Stuart, or what?
Oh, very different.
Right? Yeah.
At least with Charlie, he kind of just said like he knows nothing about the character, whereas Jacob kind of alluded to knowing that the character is dark when that's again not the case.
Right, absolutely. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Charlie Hunnam as Green Arrow, is that something that you potentially would like to see, despite him saying he's not really interested in playing that character? Do you think they should certainly approach him again, or do you have anybody else in mind that you would like to see play Green Arrow at some particular point in time? Let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below after this finishes. Real quick before we continue, if you do have any live viewer questions, we do have a post currently up on our YouTube page. If you want to go over to our YouTube page, click on that community tab. There is a post for live viewer questions. You can submit your live viewer questions, and at the end of the show, we definitely will tackle them for you. And again, for our viewers over on TikTok today, thank you guys so much for certainly joining us. Feel free to put your comments in down below. We definitely love interacting with you guys. If you want to see the opposite side of APlus Hero Report here today, check us out over on our YouTube page, Facebook, or Twitch. And you get the opportunity to see our setup for Hero Report, get the opportunity to see Stuart's handsome face as we go through all these topics as well. And you know what I was also thinking, Stuart? I was thinking about like for an intermission for our show, I was thinking of maybe doing like a new segment, like Heroes of the Week, like Hero of the Week, since it's Hero Report, in the sense of like picking out one particular person in the week throughout the week that maybe stood out to us with a quote or something that they said that we wanted to kind of highlight and talk about. It could be a positive thing, it could be a negative thing, I don't know, but I guess hero of the week would be like somebody that won the week for us, that really stood out above the rest that we wanted to talk about. I don't know, that was just an idea I was throwing out there though.
I like that idea. Do you have any in mind for this
For
week in
this week,
particular?
no, no, I was just thinking out loud to myself personally.
Okay, I'll definitely keep an eye out though for next week. If I hear anything, I'll definitely bring that up for intermission, I guess.
Ram Jam in the comments, just letting you know the name you're thinking of from Perfect Strangers. His name is Bronson Pinchot. Bronson Pinchot. Yeah, I believe he played Balky in Perfect Strangers, and he has a role in Beverly Hills Cop movie. I think he popped up in Beverly Hills Cop 2 and has kind of been like that returning cameo that people love to see in 3 and clearly again in 4, because I think you see him very briefly at the end of this trailer. So Bronson Pinchot. Thank you for clarifying that for me, Ram Jam. You must be a big movie head. I kind of dig that. All right. Next topic. Let's go over to the world of Marvel, baby, as Captain America 4, or also known as Captain America Brave New World, starring Anthony Mackie as our new Captain America. He did just have a series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, on Disney Plus. If you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, I recommend that you certainly do. I think it told a very impactful and important story. I think it did a remarkable job of really solidifying Sam Wilson, if you will, as the next Captain America. We also got a brilliant U.S. agent played by what was his name? Wyatt Russell, if I'm not mistaken, who we expect to see again in the upcoming Thunderbolts. But for me, Anthony Mackie Stewart really earned his stars and stripes in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier movie television series. And now he's been sort of gifted and earned a brand new Captain America movie. It's not many characters that have gone past sort of their initial trilogy, and Captain America will now certainly be one of them. They've been filming for quite some time, but I do believe with the writer strike and the actor strike, they probably had to put a hold on it. But Stuart, this week, Brave New World, Captain America 4, is back in the news, as it seems that this time here for Marvel Studios to kind of sit back and see how their Phase 4 and Phase 5 have certainly turned out. We know that they have tried to come up with a brand new game plan on making these movies a lot more impactful. Quality over quantity seems very much like their new catchphrase here. And this information that we wind up getting from Deadline.com this week tends to support that, Stuart, as they're talking about not only reshoots, but potentially bringing on another writer. So let's go ahead and bring this up here. This is, and if you wouldn't mind, Stuart, if you can find out who the current writers right now are for Captain America Brave New World, if you can pull that up for us while I pull up the Deadline article. So this says Captain America Brave New World hires scribe Matthew Orton, and additional shooting plan for mid 2024. So it looks like this movie is set to go ahead and get back in front of the cameras next year. So let's talk about this. This says exclusive. With plenty of time until February 14th, 2025, Marvel Studios' Captain America Brave New World has hired Matthew Orton to pen additional scenes and material. Orton will work on material that will be shot in additional photography, which will take place in spring through summer of 2024, we understand. So he's coming in to write new material that needs to be shot during the reshoots. Orton previously worked as a consulting producer for Marvel Studios' Moon Knight series. Brave New World follows Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson picking up Captain America's shield, post Chris Evans, Steve Rogers. Julius Ona directs off of earlier drafts by Dallin Musan and Malcolm Spellman. Malcolm Spellman, I believe, was in fact the writer for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. And Stuart, based off of just some of those elements from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I was really thrilled to find out that Malcolm Spellman was going to be writing this film. So it looks as though Julius Ona has directed those particular scenes from the Malcolm Spellman script. But again, they are now bringing in Matthew Orton to go ahead and write additional material for their reshoots. Reshoots are part of every Marvel movie and are always planned as part of the studio's quality control production process. Reshoot days can vary from as little as 3 days to more than 2 weeks. So they definitely are getting ready to get back in front of the camera this upcoming summer in 2024. Stuart, any alarms going off for you here? Do you like the plan that you see so far? Or, you know what, actually hit me with that, the writer's information. if you have
Okay,
it.
so the two writers they had working on the movie beforehand, you already named one of them, Michael Spellman. Um, Looking at his IMDb page, nothing that I've watched with the exception of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but he also developed the show Bel Air, the like kind of dramatic version of
Oh,
Fresh Prince of Bel Air,
okay.
and then he also wrote the Sopranos video game, which is interesting. So
That
that's
is interesting.
yeah, it's a yeah. You don't often see video game writers stepping into the movie realm, but that's awesome when it does happen. The other writer really intrigues me, Dallin Musson, and what intrigues me about him is that he has three things on his IMDb that he's written. The first one is a documentary, but the second one. I actually freaking love this movie. He wrote this movie called Iron Sky, kind of
Mm.
independent, action comedy. It's just this really funny sequel to the first Iron Sky, which was about Nazis living on the moon, and then the second one is about like not only Nazis living on the moon, but like Russians living on Mars, and then there being like a Hollow Earth, and there being like zombie dinosaurs living in Hollow Earth. It does the whole lizard people. These movies are just freaking hilarious, not meant to be taken seriously at all. It's basically like the TV show Inside Out. If any of you guys have seen that, it's like that show, but in the in a movie format. They are hilarious. Highly recommend them. And I cannot believe they got one of the writers of the sequel working on the new Captain America movie. That makes me so happy.
If anything, that does give me sort of confidence in just the writing team that they have already. I am curious as to what some of the topics are going to be that Brave New World is going to tackle in here. I think Malcolm Spellman, you bring him back for a really good reason, especially when we're talking about was it Isaiah Bradley, I believe, who was the first Captain America that they highlighted, especially as an African American Captain America. I think that's important, and I hope it's something that they highlight and tackle in here because not everybody had the opportunity to see the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. And so I do think that there are some elements that need to kind of be gone over again or at least highlighted. But again, you talk about just what they've both worked on. Spellman working on the Fresh Prince of Bel Air remake. I watched that remake, and while I didn't mind it, I think for me, the idea that it was a Fresh Prince of Bel Air, I think if it was any other sort of drama series, it might have worked more for me. But the fact that it was supposed to be sort of like a remake of Fresh Prince, it just felt weird to watch it in drama format. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I appreciated what he tried to do for that series. So I'm kind of eager to see what they do here. And now that we have Matthew Orton on board, um, oh, go ahead. You gonna
Something,
say something else?
yeah, something I think would be kind of a cool, like kind of full circle type moment. I'm not sure how you would write it, but if they brought back Isaiah Bradley into Captain America 4, kind of in the same way that Sam Wilson helped kind of give like a glimmer of hope in Isaiah Bradley, it'd be kind of cool if he did that for Sam Wilson and Captain America 4, giving it kind of a full circle type moment.
Yeah, I definitely hope that's something that we get the opportunity to see. I hope he has some pretty good involvement in here. So for me, when it comes to this, this doesn't worry me. Again, I think reshoots for the most part are the norm. We posted this story on Facebook earlier this week, and somebody mentioned to me, reshoots is just going to bring up the production cost and the budget for this movie. And one thing I would say, one, there's a part of me that thinks that reshoots are already like pre-planned. So they may already have that cost included in the production budget for the film itself. And second, even if they don't, Stuart, I think the idea of doing reshoots and bringing in another writer to help sort of add on to the material that you've already created, to make it maybe more cohesive and to actually come together. I think, if anything, regardless if it does add to the budget, by you doing that, you might actually have a bigger return at the box office than not doing that. Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, not at all. Reshoots, like you said, are a very common thing with modern, like high budget movies, and most of the time they are pre-planned. A lot of these actors go into these movies knowing that they are going to be coming back for reshoots, and not to mention like the writer that they brought on. Like you mentioned that he's actually worked with one of the other writers before, so more than likely they're bringing on someone who can kind of like. Not rewrite the whole thing. Basically, they want someone who can like kind of how do I describe it? They want to basically fix what needs to be fixed without like changing the whole vision of the movie. They don't
Right.
want to do like a whole Justice League situation where it's like you have two completely different directors with two different mindsets, and it stands out which scenes were directed by which director. It's clearly this isn't that type of reshoot. It's the type that we see in like almost every Hollywood blockbuster movie out there. So no, these reshoots and then bringing on a third writer does not worry me in the slightest.
And I think for me, the fact that it's Matthew Orton, he was a consultant on Moon Knight. And I will also say, they also brought other people in that worked on Moon Knight just recently on another MCU series by the name of Loki Season 2. And look how that certainly turned out, right? So the idea that I think that they recognized the great work from Moon Knight and bringing some of those people in certainly might benefit this particular film. And I think too, Stuart, I think because of the fact in which the direction that Marvel Studios has gone as of late with its films, it's almost like any news about the MCU doing something like reshoots or bringing another writer in is like immediately doom and gloom for people these days, right? Like, oh my God, see, it's happening again. Marvel needs another writer to fix their problem, sort of thing. Whereas I don't think that's necessarily the case. I would agree with you. I think they're just simply coming in to make all the pieces work more cohesively together, fill out certain areas, not a complete rewrite of the movie in any stretch of the imagination, but just utilizing for the reshoots in order to make the movie certainly come together a lot better. So when you hear reshoots, I certainly would not be worried. And again, the idea of an additional writer, there's no comment here about him rewriting the entire movie, just doing the material for a reshoot. So I don't think there's anything to worry about here. I think if anything, this is Marvel Studios recognizing they have to do a better job at putting these films and series together. And I think that's exactly what they're doing here. But we will see in the final product, won't we?
Yes, we will.
But let us know your thoughts, guys, in the comment section box below. Captain America 4, Brave New World. Are you eager to see Anthony Mackie in the lead role here? Are you worried about reshoots, despite the fact that these are very common amongst movies? Certainly let me know your levels of anticipation towards it in the comment section box below, guys. And with that out of the way, Stuart, we got two more topics, y'all, that we're going to be tackling before we get to your guys' live viewer questions today. So let's get into the realm of movies, Stuart, because one of my most anticipated films this year is, in fact, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, set to go ahead and drop in 2024. We, in fact, do have a most anticipated movies of 2024 video that we're going to be dropping for you guys here within the next few days. So certainly look out for that. But Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is in the news, Stuart. We have been getting a lot of information recently. Some new details have, in fact, emerged, most notably from Empire Magazine. They recently just had or will be releasing an Empire Magazine that will be focusing more on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And you could probably expect here within the next couple of weeks that we'll be getting more images and more articles out of here. But as for somebody like myself that was a big fan of the most recent Planet of the Apes trilogy that we wind up getting, the idea of them revisiting this world was very exciting to me, trying to figure out what's Caesar's involvement in here. Are we going to be following Caesar's kids? How far into the future are we certainly going to be going? This week, Stuart, we have our answers. So let's go ahead and get into this, man. This is coming to us from Empire Magazine. We'll give you some new exclusive images, as you can see here as well. This is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes sets up a new trilogy nearly 300 years after Caesar's end. As we get ourselves a brand new exclusive image here. So, and you can see this is Proximus Caesar. We'll talk a little bit about him in just a little bit, but this is from Empire Magazine's latest cover. So if you are looking to get more details, you can probably find this on newsstands wherever you're at, or maybe even digitally download it. But let's get into this, Stuart. When Rise of the Planet of the Apes set out to unfold Rise of the Planet of the Apes back in 2011, it did so through the eyes of Caesar, an empathetic primate brought to vivid life by Andy Serkis' astonishing performance. Through the course of that trilogy, audiences witnessed Caesar's entire lifespan, his own evolution coinciding with the Simian Revolution spreading across the globe. So, with the arrival of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Caesar's son, Cornelius, would be at the center of the action for the next saga. Instead, it's time to think bigger. While taking its cues from the previous trilogy, this is the start of something else, unfolding a whole new era of the Planet of the Apes. Rather than follow the immediate aftermath of Caesar's death at the end of War of the Planet of the Apes, Kingdom has taken a major leap forward. The film, directed by Wes Ball, is set roughly 300 years after Caesar's delivered his people to their promised land. And with all those years gone by, his legendary leadership qualities are largely lost to time. Still, it's Caesar's legacy and the meaning of apes together strong that's set to drive Noah, Kingdom's new young ape hero. Noah has no idea what that is, Owen Teague, the man behind the motion cap for him, says of Caesar. Part of his journey is a discovery of that legacy and its various interpretations. Noah has to make sense of what it all means. And you get to see here, this is in fact the character of Noah. Very on the nose, Stuart, in regards to like biblical references. You know what I mean? Sort of like discovering a brand new world after the flood and all this stuff. Him going out and seeing what's out there. There is something really intriguing to me. Like, I'm a sucker for history. So the idea that Caesar's past is like 300 years in the past, it's almost like, when we wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and stuff, right? It's like all those years are far gone now when we kind of look back on it. But clearly his teachings have definitely lived on during that time. What do you think about the idea that we have a new protagonist in here, Noah, the new young ape hero that has to figure out the meaning of apes together strong in this part of this brand new landscape? What do you think of it?
Yeah, intriguing. We've gotten to the point where now apes are now kind of like the dominant species on Earth, and now the kind of question is, now that they've gotten to that, now that they are where they're at, how are they going to get along with other apes who are now suddenly discovering, hey, I suddenly have the intelligence of a human, and all the humans around me have the intelligence of apes. We're the dominants now. What should we do with this new power? And then see if it leads to, well, I mean, if we're going by the original movie, then we know that it kind of leads to war amongst the different ape factions. So I'm kind of curious, like if we're going to get kind of like a little bit into how certain factions may disagree with each other, or like if we're going to get into just following this one person kind of discovering this world. I don't know. It's intriguing. It's something that I could see going in a lot of different directions. And I think the best part about it is that it's almost like a complete blank slate. Like they don't have to deal. It's 200 or 300 years after the previous movie. So nothing from those movies has to really drag the writing down from this. They can pretty much write almost whatever they want to in this movie because it's like a completely fresh slate. So yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this also, man. The idea here of Noah, like you can just see it from the trailer itself too. The idea of sort of like this discovery of this brand new world, the eagle coming in and swooping him on his arm, sort of that curiosity of sort of like what's down that train tunnel. Is there more to this world? Some of the apes kind of even teasing him, like you don't know the half of the history of this world and what it's kind of undertaken and what it's overcome, sort of thing. So for me to kind of see Noah on this journey, it's going to be kind of cool to see how Caesar's impacts has really transformed this world? Is he going to learn about tales of the past, people that came after Caesar that tried to, push forward certainly his message? But clearly, I'm very much on the optimistic side of things. There definitely is sort of the negative side of things because you got to have an antagonist for sure. And that brings us to our next character in here that we're going to be focused on, Proximus Caesar. It says the character in Kingdom who does remember Caesar's teachings isn't necessarily using it for the good of ape kind. Enter Proximus Caesar. As seen on the cover of the issue, a crown wearing chimp with his own agenda at play. Caesar is almost a religious figure, and Proximus has taken on the name Caesar because it was the highest position held in ape society. It was a self proclamation that was achieved by any means necessary to ensure that apes continue to evolve. So you're seeing the influence and the evolution of what Caesar left. And like in every morsel of human history, there's always some type of tyrant who comes along and scares everyone into believing them. It says, make no mistake, the ambition here is not to make a fourth film in the Rise saga. Kingdom is its own new beast, and there's bigger story to unfold. From the beginning, we thought about this as a trilogy. We had these grand ideas of where it could ultimately go and how it could fit into the legacy of these movies. So I'm certainly talking to the studio right now about the next story. And while Wes Ball, the director, might not take those on himself, he says, having recently been named as the director for the Legend of Zelda movie, he sees a bright future for this era of apes. He says those last three movies were about the end of something. They were about the end of this Moses story. They were about the end of humanity. And we thought from the ashes of those previous movies, we're going to grow a new tree to climb. This movie is very much about the beginning of something. Strap in. It's going to be bananas, is what they say. Haha, pun intended, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but I think all this sounds so intriguing to me, Stuart. This movie just got that much more interesting to me. I really dig the concept and the idea of somebody coming along and taking Caesar's teachings and maybe initially having sort of good intentions with it, but maybe seeing how those teachings potentially gave him sort of power and sort of put him in this sort of light of leadership. And now that you're in that role of leadership, that ability to then begin sort of twisting maybe some of Caesar's words or utilizing what Caesar said, but for your own sort of greed and power sort of thing. So, I find that super fascinating. I think, especially because of the fact that we're talking about apes here, Stuart, and just how far along that they've come with their knowledge and things like that. But it's such an echo to human society, and seeing how it will now officially play out in the ape world is that much more exciting to me. So I kind of dig the idea of, like, I don't want to say different factions, but there's still being sort of like that religious aspect that still holds on to Caesar's teachings, and maybe a group of apes that maybe view Caesar in a completely different light. Like, I am curious to see how much Proximus Caesar, like how much power he's gained over time and how he utilizes that power. I mean, even in some of the trailers, right, we see like humans captured and used as sort of like slaves. Is that something Proximus decided, right? In the sense of like, or is that something that's already occurred after such a long period of time since Caesar's past? Because clearly Caesar wasn't the type to put humans behind cages. If anything, he probably had that mentality of, yes, apes are strong together, but maybe keeping that mentality of at least working with some of the humans. So I am kind of curious as to how things have definitely changed over time. But I got to tell you, man, these new details have made this movie that much more intriguing to me, Stuart. What about you, though?
Yeah, same here. I love these type of villains, the type where they can take philosophies, they can take like sayings from people that were genuinely good people and heroes, and then use it for your own agenda. Because these are the type of people that, or I say people, even though it's like a movie about apes, but you know what I mean. This exists in the real world, and it's how like so many people rise to power like all the time. Is they take like familiar teachings, but they use their own like twist, their own agenda with it in order to really gain power. It's just this is like the biggest example of history repeating itself over and over, and so I
Yes.
look forward to kind of seeing that play out, but in this whole new world of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I love the fact that West Ball really cements the idea. Like, look, this isn't a fourth film in the Ape trilogy or the Rise trilogy that we just done. This is something completely brand new. So it seems like they have a big story in mind here. What the end game for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes saga is going to be, who certainly knows? But it should be interesting to see what this world has turned into 300 years, who's captured power, who's lost power, and just the ideology of some of these different ape factions. So yeah, really looking forward to it, guys. But again, at the end of the day, these are just our A+ opinions. We definitely want to go ahead and know yours. So let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below. Yeah, anything during the live chat as well.
The villain also kind of reminds me one of the villains, for example, he kind of reminds me of. Did you ever see the movie Book of Eli?
I seen Book of Eli once, but it's been a minute. But I think I have an idea who you're referring to.
Yeah, like I feel like the villain in that movie was definitely someone who presented himself as a prophet, really wanted to get a hold of the Bible simply because he knew that with the Bible he could use that to manipulate people even like better. And so that's kind of the vibe I get from the way they've described the villain of this movie.
That might be a great comparison to Book of Eli villain for sure. And real quick, again, to those watching us over on TikTok, this is just my view that you guys are seeing. If you want to see the whole setup for Hero Report, our co-host Stuart and his thoughts, check us out over on our YouTube page, A+ Hero Report, or you can find us over on Facebook as well as Twitch out there as well. All right, Stuart, let's go ahead and tackle our final topic for the day before we get into live viewer questions. Oh, hey, Stuart, it's good to see your face again. Yeah, let's get into our last topic for the day as James Cameron is back in the news. Now, look, Stuart, we waited forever for Avatar 2, The Way of Water to get here. Easily 10 plus years, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember what the gap in between films was, but we were waiting for The Way of Water forever as James Cameron let us know, hey, look, man, I'm working on Avatar 3. I'm working on Avatar 4. We may even have an Avatar 5 and 6 at some point. I don't even know if I've begun working on those yet. I mean, I don't know if James Cameron's keeping up with what's filmed and what's not filmed at this point. But after seeing The Way of Water, I think some of us probably thought there is no way, Stuart. There's no way that this movie is going to make as much money as the first Avatar movie, especially after all those years. And it destroyed the box office. Okay. The Way of Water destroyed the box office. So people clearly want to continue to see the adventures that James Cameron certainly has to tell. And today we have ourselves an update for Avatar 3 and Avatar 4. And if I can tease you guys at all, keep taking your vitamins because you're going to need a while before just to survive to get to these sequels. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. Let me bring this up. This actually comes to us from variety.com. Avatar 3 has greater character depth, and Avatar 4 has a 6-year time jump, reveals James Cameron. Filming continues after Avatar 3 is released. And I already thought The Way of Water did a really good job of establishing a lot of these characters and some great character depth already. Leave it up to James Cameron to understand the importance of what pushes these movies and these sequels forward. While they definitely are big CGI spectacles, you can't take away from the idea that James Cameron focuses on the characters. So when he says Avatar 3 has great character depth, I'm like, what's new? This is almost expected from James Cameron, but it's something that I clearly like to hear because then it almost guarantees me of Avatar 4. So let's dive into this, Stuart. He says he recently told People magazine that Avatar 3 is right on track for its December 2025 release date. So we don't have to wait very long for that film. The film has been worked on since before Avatar 2 movie, The Way of Water, opened in theaters in December of 2023. So they've been working on it ever since then, and became the third highest grossing film in history with $2.3 billion worldwide. That's so ridiculous to me. Cameron shot Avatar 3 and chunks of Avatar 4 concurrently with their Way of Water to ensure age continuity among its characters. And I think that's just a brilliant idea. He says, we did the motion capture on 3 and the live action photography on 3 as an intermingled production with The Way of Water. And we did part of the part of movie 4 because our young characters are all going to have a big time jump in movie 4. We see them and then we go away for 6 years and we come back. He added about the Avatar 4 time jump. And so the part where we come back is the part we haven't shot yet. So we'll start on that after 3 is released. Cameron has the rest of Avatar 4 and the entirety of Avatar 5 left to shoot. The third movie was originally going to arrive in 2024, but Disney delayed the franchise and scheduled Avatar 3 for December 19th of 2025. Avatar 4, listen to this. Avatar 4 is on track for December 21st, 2029, Stuart. 29. 6 more years for sure. And then followed by Avatar 5 on December 19th, 2031, Stuart. I'm going to be like late 40s by this time. I'm definitely going to need to be popping my vitamins for sure. He says 3 is actually much more straightforward than 2. 2, we got hit with the pandemic in the middle of it, and we were interrupted, and then we had to reboot the production and all sorts of things. And this was a scramble to kind of get it done. So yeah, man. It's going to be a minute. It seems as though Avatar 3 on schedule to drop December 25th for us. Avatar 4, on the other hand, looks like that's going to be dropping 2029 and Avatar 5, 2031. So not very far to Avatar 3, Stuart. So we definitely have something to look forward to in that regards. But what do you think about this news here and just how he really talks about the idea of how they filmed everything and how they're kind of piecing it together now?
The way they filmed Avatar 2 and 3 makes total sense to me because a lot of, I mean, that's how Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi did it. That's how Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3 did it. So this is actually a very common way to make sure that you don't fall behind on production, and 2, like he kind of mentions in the article, the kids don't like have one scene where they're one age and then another scene where suddenly they look like they've aged like 2 or 3 years, because like a year for an adult may not be that much, but a year for a kid, you definitely tend to notice it a lot more. So filming them both at the same time definitely makes a lot of sense. The fourth movie coming out and it being a 6-year time jump, that not the part that surprised me was that they're already planning for it to take as long as it is. The fact that they want to wait till 2029 to release it, rather than just kind of like going off a schedule and releasing it when it comes out. It's like it almost feels like James Cameron really wants to make sure this series has longevity more than anything else. So even if he doesn't get to, even if the franchise, for example, were to end after the fourth one and he doesn't get to make his fifth Avatar movie, he can at least say that even if he only made 4 movies, those 4 movies came out throughout a long period of time, meaning that the franchise lasted 17 years basically, if the fourth one does come out in 2029. So it's an interesting choice, but we'll have to wait and see how it all comes down. It's also funny because I feel like 4 is the one that he's really been teasing recently, because even after Avatar 2 came out, rather than talking about what's going to be going on with Avatar 3, it seemed like he was really bragging about the fact that a lot of studio executives were blown away by his script for Avatar 4, not even talking about Avatar 3. And here we go into him saying that Avatar 3 will be a lot more straightforward than Avatar 2. it almost sounds like he's trying to say Avatar 3 is like a throwaway movie, but I don't know. That might just be me. What do you think? Do you think that's what it's coming off as?
I can't find anything James Cameron does as a throwaway, you know. I do think he does say that this Avatar 3 will be a little bit more straightforward. I am curious as to what he means when he says it's going to be more of a straightforward film. I thought the other one was pretty straightforward. I mean, there were a lot of moving pieces. I think just because of the fact that we had to get introduced to, you know, Jack Sully's family and stuff, right? Introduce us to those characters. But now that we've gone through the meat and potatoes, if you will, of that story, and you've seen the emotion that has come out of it, the stakes, how high they certainly are at the end of that film too. I think straightforward means like, you know, these characters, you know, the taking off point for the story. We're just going to go straight forward with it. And I think I want to say with Avatar 4, I can't remember if he's teased the idea that they're going to be eventually going to Earth, or maybe somehow going to Earth. I wonder if that's maybe a concept or idea in 4 that really has a lot of people talking. Just the idea of getting off of Pandora and that world in general, and maybe bringing us back to Earth. Who knows? I don't really know what the 4th script is going to be like, but I'll never say anything as a throwaway when it comes to James Cameron. If anything, while it hurts me to the core, Stuart, that I gotta wait so damn long. If there's anybody that I can be patient enough with, to wait it out for these movies and trust that they're gonna deliver on it, James Cameron's done it before. I'm gonna trust him again that he knows how he's gonna do this. And there is something really cool to me about waiting for these kids to get a little bit older. You know, there was a movie a couple years back that was done. I don't remember, was that Boyhood or something like that, that was like filmed through like the entirety of the kid's life or as he's growing up, or like this is a film that took years to clearly put together and film, but the payoff was tremendous. And for me, I kind of dig that idea of, look, we filmed 3, we filmed some of 4, but because of the fact that there's a legit time period jump, you know, we don't want to age these kids forward. We want them to naturally sort of age on their own. And after those 6 years, we'll come back to it all. Now, look, there's always a risk in that, right? What if James Cameron passes? What if something tragic happens to a cast member before we even get there? But I think the payoff of attempting to do that will be so much greater than doing it sort of any other way. And during this time, while the kids are getting older, James Cameron's learning more about technology, baby, and he's pushing that technology to the limits and giving us something even greater. So I think when we get to Avatar 4, as long as my blood pressure doesn't get too high and my cholesterol stays where it's at, I might actually make it to watch 4 and 5 and be really pleased with what James Cameron has certainly given us. So I'm kind of pumped. I really appreciate his level of filmmaking, that again separates him, I think, from a lot of other filmmakers. And I think that's why people continue to go back and support this man in his movies. Is he don't miss, it feels like to me, which is incredible, Stuart.
Yeah, definitely.
So we do got to give some love to people, because I'm sorry I missed this earlier, Frankie. Frankie with the $5 super chat, just because we appreciate you, buddy. Trust me, man, that $5 will definitely go a long way around here. We also got Blossom coming through with another super chat of $5. Holy macaroni, Manoli, Apes again. They sure aren't monkeying around, are they? Man, we had two great monkey puns this episode. I appreciate it, Blossom. I'm curious, Blossom, if you have liked the Apes trilogy so far, if you've seen them. We had Rise of the Planet of the Apes. What was the second one, Stuart? Do you remember? I remember Rise and War. I can't remember the name of the second one now. It wasn't just Planet of the Apes, was
It
it?
wasn't Kingdoms, was it?
I don't think it was.
Kingdom,
Somebody let us know in the comments section box below. Marcelino says, what's crazy is that Avatar 3 and 4 have their Wikipedia pages even shortly after Where the Water was released. That tells us, you know, how crazy this is. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Marcelino says, I heard that it's Avatar 5 that the concept will have Zoe Saldana's character visiting Earth. Okay, so I thought it was 4, but it clearly might be Avatar 5 that has them visiting Earth at some point in time. If we even get to Avatar 5, who knows, right?
Hmm.
Like there's a potential that those movies do not get done and we wrap up the story with 4. But we'll definitely have to see.
It was Dawn, so it's Rise,
Dawn.
Dawn,
Okay.
and then War.
Okay. I think Dawn for me was my favorite, followed by Rise. War was probably my least favorite, but I thought it was a decent film.
That's funny because I think for me it was probably Dawn, War, and I think Rise was actually
Rise.
my least favorite.
I get you. Um, let's see here. Johnny, what's up, Johnny? It's good to see you in the chat with us. He says, "Hey, Adam, made it, man. Sorry I'm late, bro. What's up? We're doing good here, man. I'm so glad when you're able to join us, Johnny, for comments and going through questions and things like that. So I appreciate you coming through, man, regardless of what time you join our channel. And shout out to everybody that's joined us over on TikTok. If you're watching us live on TikTok right now, leave a comment, give us a thumbs up real quick. Let us know that you're there. Show some love, y'all. Johnny also says, I posted a picture on Instagram about if Omega Rangers get a live action series. I can see those actresses portraying Trina Kwan, aka Yellow, and our Omega Ranger. Any chance you can mention it? Well, there you go. I just mentioned it, sir. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can pull up. Let me see if I can pull up IG here real quick. But Stuart. Speaking of Omega Rangers, did you get this chance to see the clip of Walter and Austin actually putting on some Omega Ranger helmets for the very first time?
No.
I can't remember if
Ooh.
Austin was like selling something on like a live chat with him and Walter. They were together, and I think they had a bunch of props. I don't know if they were selling things together or whatever the case may be, but they somehow got a hold of 2 Omega Ranger helmets. One clearly red, the other one black, and they wore them. I just thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen, man. Just because it's like I would love to see a live action Omega Rangers in any sense of the imagination. And those helmets just look pretty badass, man.
Hell yeah. That's, oh my God. I got to look this clip up now.
Yeah, check it out if you can find it. I can't remember if we posted it in the Facebook chat or not, but it's somewhere. It's somewhere up there for sure.
Hmm.
Um, all right, guys. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on Avatar 4. Are you eager to see, or Avatar 3 and 4? Are you eager to see what the rest of James Cameron's story is? Certainly let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. Ram Jam says him and Austin do giveaways on Fanfare. So it looks like that's what they were doing. But it was pretty badass. All right, y'all. With that out of the way, Stuart, let's get into the last segment of the day.
Hell yeah. Now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to be getting to your guys' live viewer questions. So let's go ahead and bring this up here. And anybody watching on TikTok, listen, if you have any questions, whether that be questions about movies, television series, anything Marvel, DC, Star Wars, any big fandoms, anything geek related that you guys want to talk about over on TikTok, feel free to go ahead and submit your question down below. We'll definitely go ahead and get to your questions. If you're watching us over on YouTube, if you would like to go ahead and submit a question over, I'll show you how. Just simply go over to our YouTube page as such, click on that community tab, and you will see a live viewer question post. We usually post them on Fridays or Saturday evenings, so keep a lookout for that. And today's story, we got 8 questions this week. So people coming through.
Awesome.
All right, let's go ahead and tackle these, shall we? Let me bring this up here. Blossom says, Adam, didn't you see my super chat? Yeah, I think we got to her super chat, right? We did do the monkeying around super chat. Yes, I did see that. Yeah, we got it. All right, let's go ahead and tackle these live viewer questions. So first up, Peg C, good old Ram Jam. What are your thoughts on Disney? Soon to be losing copyrights of the original Mickey Mouse character, as in the 1928 copyrights lasted for 28 years, with the option for renewal for another 28. As of 2023, Mickey Mouse was published almost 95 years ago. The copyright of the original Mickey Mouse character, as it appeared in Steamboat Willie, expires on January 1st, 2024. So,
Finally.
as it appears in Steamboat Willie. So does that mean if they still want to do current versions of Mickey Mouse, they can still do that without that copyright, Stuart? Do you know?
I think like more modern iterations of Mickey Mouse, anything that's been done past Steamboat Willie, Disney would still have the rights to. But if you're doing Steamboat Willie, like that specific design, I think that's open to the public domain. And to which I say finally, because one of the things that constantly extends copyright or extends like how long a copyright is owned for by different companies is Disney itself, constantly like convincing everyone to change the law so it like lasts longer, basically because they just never wanted to give up Mickey Mouse. So this is the first time in history where it's finally going to be public domain. Steamboat Willie will finally be open to the public, and I think that's kind of a win. Personally, I think anytime that Disney loses in something like this when they're just being petty, I think it's a win for everyone.
Bring on the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse horror films, y'all.
Yes,
Um,
that's gonna happen.
I mean, look, Winnie the Pooh went public domain. Now we got two Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey murder films. There's a Cinderella murder film, like horror film in the works, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they're taking a lot of our childhood characters and turning them into serial killers, y'all. And so Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse, you're up next, sir. So yeah, I fully expect people to jump on board this as long as Disney still continues to have Mickey Mouse. Because look, you can't look, Disney cannot get rid of the mouse of the house of the mouse, or that mouse of the house, or whatever they call it, the ears that they sell at Disney. There's no way that they can get rid of Mickey Mouse completely. So as long as they can hold on to some level of copyright for Mickey Mouse, I'm happy. But if there is a version of Mickey that is now going to be available to public domain, bring it on, man. I want to see what people's vision for that character is going to be.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Zack Snyder saying he would be open to finishing his Justice League universe on Netflix if they acquired the
Ooh.
rights to his DC universe characters?
I should have brought this up for my honorable mentions. Yeah. So during an interview, for anyone who doesn't know, people, of course, asked him the same question that the internet's been talking about forever, which is, what if Netflix had the right to the Snyderverse? And he got to finish up his universe here. So during an interview, someone asked him about this, and he just kind of gave the most Zack Snyder-y kind of answer you could imagine, which is, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I'd be open to something like that. And of course, that's what he said. But what the internet heard was, oh, I'm pushing to make sure Netflix buys the rights to the Snyderverse so I can take over DC. That's what the internet heard, even though that's not at all what he said. But that all being said, I don't see this happening. I don't think practically like Netflix would have the money to do so, to produce the type of movies that they were making with the Snyderverse of DC. That being said, that would be kind of cool if they were able to work it out and it were to be like its own like kind of standalone universe, separate from James Gunn's DC universe. I think that'd be kind of fun. I don't think it's likely to happen. If anything, I think it's more likely that James Gunn starts doing, Elseworld DC movies and then brings back Zack Snyder for that, lets him finish up his universe in an Elseworlds type of franchise. But I don't see it going to Netflix or anything like that.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Stuart. I don't see this happening. I know there's a lot of people that are excited for it. I mean, you have to. I think you literally would have to purchase like the DC film rights for these characters. It's not like the Henry Cavill Superman and with James Gunn Superman are like different rights. It's still film rights for Superman, if I'm not mistaken. So the idea of Netflix having to fork over a ton of money just for film rights for DC films, I just don't see it happening at all, Stuart. So I don't like, for me, would I love to see it? Of course, because I personally enjoyed Zack Snyder's vision for what he had, but I also can understand that it's time to move on from things.
Yeah.
And this is something certainly worth moving on from. He had his opportunity. I enjoyed what he created, even though it was divisive among some of the fans. But as far as Netflix acquiring the rights, you're right. I don't know if they have the money for it. And I don't know if that's something that Warner Brothers would even want to do, especially when they have James Gunn getting ready to launch their own new DCU with those same film rights beginning in 2025. I think I would agree with you that if anything were to happen, maybe James Gunn brings in Zack Snyder for an Elseworlds movie or something like that. But as far as Netflix doing it, no, I don't think so. I think if anything, they're just blowing this up more than what it really is. I think so that Netflix can get more viewers over to
Mhm.
their to watch the content on their streaming service.
Oh yeah.
Would you be interested in seeing a Terminator and RoboCop movie? If so, how would you do it? Hell yeah, I would, Ram Jam. I don't know if we can collide those two worlds together, but is there a world that you live in, Stuart, where there's a Terminator and RoboCop film?
Yeah, in a world where like Elseworlds, What If movies were just as common as they were in comic books, then yes, I think a movie between the two of them fighting would just be a huge blast and a lot of fun to see. I don't know how I would do it because their worlds have very different histories, so I think the only way that would make sense is it would have to take place in a completely different universe from either franchise. And then, yeah, I guess within that universe, you could go the video game route like they did with the Super Nintendo game of RoboCop versus Terminator, which is RoboCop indirectly causing the effects of Skynet to go online. I think that'd be kind of a fun way to do it.
Indirectly, how so? Do you remember?
I don't remember. No,
Because
I just remember like he was technically the cause of Skynet's rise to power in the video game.
interesting. Because the first thing that comes to mind when he asked the questions, "How would I do it?" For me, I would probably take the RoboCop tech and give it sort of like a massive upgrade to the point to where RoboCop, not just him solely, but like the potential of what RoboCop can become now being sort of the threat to Skynet. Like
Mm.
instead of those robots now being the rise of, humans have made sort of this leaps and bounds on technology when it comes to like their officers and their law enforcement sort of thing. And now their RoboCops have taken this huge sort of potentially a huge leap forward. So then the Terminator has to send somebody else back in time to stop this RoboCop upgrade from certainly happening because the machines want to be the one in power, not necessarily, they don't want this new RoboCop, if you will, to kind of take over from them. And so maybe you've got Arnold and you got somebody in the RoboCop suit that, him and Murphy and Arnold, who knows? I don't know, but
Mhm.
that's probably where I would go from it. Those two trying to stop Skynet and bring down the RoboCop Foundation or whatever the case may be. That's what I would go.
You ever see the Dragon Ball Z movie Return of Cooler?
Yes.
I would love to see kind of like the final act have it be like RoboCop and the Terminator from Terminator 2 working together against a whole army of Terminators. So you get that same shot from that movie
Ooh.
where it's like all the mecha coolers, but instead it's all the Terminators and then just the two of them getting ready to battle.
Give it to me. Give it to me. I think we just made a pitch for Terminator versus RoboCop. Let's get it.
Hell yeah.
All right, Marcelino. What are some of the positive aspects that gatekeepers have brought to fandoms? That's an interesting question, and maybe you might come up with it. I read this question yesterday. Sometimes I pre-screen some of the questions, and I chuckled a little bit because when I think of the term gatekeepers, I never think anything good of it, Stuart. Like I
Mhm.
always think of gatekeepers in the sense that like are think that they're doing great things by trying to protect the fandom, but at the end of the day, all they're really doing is like keeping people out of the fandom that really want to get involved just because they have sort of a different mentality of what the franchise should be or could be, sort of thing. And I've always looked at gatekeepers in a very negative mindset. So, do you think there's any positive aspects that gatekeepers might bring to fandoms?
I don't know if I'd call this a positive aspect, but I will say the way that I see myself as a gatekeeper at times, and you can tell me if you think this is okay or not. But for me, when I see some superheroes, when they have like very specific, very obvious metaphors, I'll go with the best example that anyone can think of, which is like the X-Men being a clear metaphor for like racism and then just overall just like not fitting in basically with society. And then you have certain people that are racist, or certain people that are bullies that also say they love X-Men and things like that. That's where I will like gatekeep to an extent and be like, I really don't think you understand what this comic book is actually about. I think if you existed in this world, you would actually be looked at as one of the villains of this world if you existed. And that's where I will kind of gatekeep and be like, yeah, no, I don't think like, yeah, if you're someone who, spreads more hate, I don't think, liking a comic book like this kind of feels weird to me. It feels weird knowing that you like this comic book when it stands for the exact opposite of what you stand for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and even to push back on that, there's a part of me that would agree with you that that's acceptable gatekeeping, because I feel like I see it sometimes. I see the negative and I see the positive sometimes of that in like the Power Ranger fandom. Like sometimes when there are people that are abhorrently like just showcasing their racist side or their homophobic side sort of thing, and they're saying just crazy shit about Power Rangers that Power Rangers, with it being such an inclusive sort of brand, never really meant for people to take that sort of mentality, and they're trying to then flood it into the fandom. Then I can understand that in that regards, right? Trying to keep the hate sort of out of the fandom. For me, I would see that certainly as a positive. I'm sure some people would probably say that's a negative, though. You're keeping away people's free speech, sort of thing. I mean, look, you could say whatever the you can say whatever
Yeah.
the fuck you want, but I think there's always I think it's a much more positive job that you're doing that, from not allowing it to become tainted by other people's sort of hate and degrading it, sort of thing, compared to the idea of people just having fun ideas or different genres that they, different tones that they would like to see this fandom. Like when it's creativity, and people trying to come up with cool ways that they would like to see those fandoms established, and you get people that are like, no, that's not Power Rangers, and just immediately shutting people off. That I think is a negative aspect. But I think when you're trying to keep out the hate, that sometimes tends to just flood these fandoms, that's probably the type of gatekeeping I personally don't mind. But when I think of gatekeeping, it's usually pretty negative. Marcelino says one positive aspect of gatekeeping could be that Game of Thrones needs to be dark and serious and not make any kids programming related to Sesame Street or Dora the Explorer, because it doesn't fit Game of Thrones. And I would say,
Well, marketing wise, they've done that, and to me, I think it actually worked really well. So they've done a couple of Sesame Street Game of Thrones crossovers.
but again, that's not hate, right? Like
Yeah.
that's, and I just mentioned, like that's a
Okay.
creative sort of criticism of like what type of tone would you like to see the fandom or the those shows and those franchises kind of take. And so that I don't think we should keep those people out of the fandom if they have an idea of like, hey, I wanted to see it darker, maybe more serious. We may not necessarily agree, but I don't think that is bringing the franchise down in any way.
Nah. Yeah. But I will just say that like it's just funny he brought up Sesame Street as an example because they've done like some cross promotion between the two, and I've loved all of it. It's because yeah, they do enough to, because it is obviously it's promotional stuff, so it's not like it's actually part of the world of Game of Thrones. But it's just kind of a funny way of like the writers being able to have like kind of some fun with themselves, or even at their own expense, I guess you could say in a way, by like introducing Sesame characters with the Game of Thrones characters. Definitely recommend checking them out on YouTube. I'm sure you can just look up Game of Thrones Sesame Street. You'll see what I mean. I think those are just hilarious. But I do agree with you in the sense that, yeah, when you have certain people trying to say that, oh, yeah, we should make something like this into a program for kids. While I definitely don't agree with the idea of gatekeeping them out of the fan base, I do think that's where, like, there's nothing wrong with kind of telling him, no, I don't think that's where the franchise should go. I think we should keep it where it's at because that's, tonally what it's meant to be.
He also says, who would have been a better villain for Supergirl season 6 other than Lex Luthor because he would be too obvious? I personally think either Maxwell Lord or Brainiac would have been better than Nixley. Well, we got Maxwell Lord in season 1, and that was a little bit of a flop. So maybe they didn't want to return to that character. Brainiac's always a fun one for them to tackle. He thinks it would have been better than Nixley. I didn't mind Nixley so much. I think just because of the actress that played her. I think the actress was really good in regards to showcasing emotions and making it feel like the mission was important to her. I definitely understand the pushback and anybody that had problems with it. So I'm not arguing with you in that regards. But who do you think personally, Stuart? Were you happy with Nixley, or would you have preferred a Maxwell Lord or a Brainiac or maybe anybody else?
Honestly, because it felt like this is what they were setting up when they went back to Earth, I thought Supergirl's dad was going to be the villain, and I think that would have been a
Mm,
really cool concept. The idea of him kind of wanting to take over Earth, but not for like selfish reasons, literally just because he sees Earth going down the exact same path as Krypton, like in the very first episode. They had this whole episode and it was about pollution. I thought it was actually I thought this was going to be the point where season 6 was going to be going like uphill, like it was going to get really good. But then it turned out to just be a one-off filler episode, and they never go back to that again. And it was so disappointing. And instead of like having his concerns grow at the end of the episode because they don't really solve anything at the end. By the end, pollution and global warming are still two huge factors that are a huge problem for Earth. Rather than him being like, if you're not going to fix this, I will. He just kind of goes, okay, I guess it's fine then. And it's just like, no, that would have been such a great setup. You had a great setup for a villain there. Why didn't you take that?
Marcelina says they could have just recast Maxwell Lord. Yeah, they easily could have. I would agree with you there. If I had my choice, Stuart, I would probably have Lena Luthor as my final villain. I felt that there was a lot of tension that was being built because of the fact that Lena finds out about Kara being Supergirl, feeling some type of way about, being lied to, sort of thing. And they just went a completely different route in the sense of like, hey, they're best buds. We're gonna make Lena part of the Super Friends team. Hell, we may even give Lena Luthor abilities. And I just was not necessarily the biggest fan of that. I appreciated her brilliance and how she handled the team. But if you're gonna ask me who would have made a better villain, I think Lena Luthor would have made a hell of a villain. Because I thought the tease of them being enemies was done so well. They had been cast members for such a long time, so the chemistry is there. I just felt like there was something really built there that if Lena Luthor wanted to dive into the villain realm, they really could have exposed her even more for a season 6. They didn't do that, unfortunately, but if I had to choose, I probably would have gone a different route and made Lena the villain. So yeah, who knows? We'll see. You also say we all know that Netflix's failed attempt at with Jupiter's Legacy, where it was supposed to be the launching pad of creating a shared universe with all of Mark Miller's projects. But is there hope in saving this universe? Because Netflix still plans on adapting a lot of Mark Miller's projects into TV shows and movies. I think the ship has sailed, Stuart. I think they had an animated series too that came after Jupiter's Legacy that was supposed to be part of the Mark Miller series, Mark Miller universe. I think the animated series did pretty well, or at least I know Indy appreciated it and enjoyed it. But after that, I don't know if we've had another Mark Miller series on Netflix after that. So I don't know if they've scrapped it or if they're reworking it or not. But do you see any hope for that franchise to still go?
Um, Maybe just not with a very specific direction like, the MCU. I could see if they still want to adapt more of his work, I don't see
Uh-huh.
why they couldn't just keep it connected in that universe. They just don't, they probably just wouldn't worry about like tying anything in together unless they saw like a turnaround in the success. Like suddenly the next thing they adapted was a big hit. Maybe they might think, hey, maybe we should give the characters from Jupiter's Legacy one more chance.
So we'll
But
see.
yeah.
We'll see if they revisit it. You know, if anything, I feel like Netflix does a good job of acquiring a lot of IP to have these huge cinematic sort of universes, but I don't feel like they've really capitalized on them as well as they probably could have, with the exception of maybe like The Witcher. Um, you know, Zack Snyder gave us Army of the Dead, right? And we were supposed to get like prequel movies, animated series, sequels. I think we got Army of Thieves, which was like a second film that he dropped. But outside of Army of the Dead and Army of Thieves, like that's all we got. They scrapped the animated series, and I haven't heard anything else from Zack Snyder in regards to the um, Army of the Dead world. But to be fair, though, now that he's launching a new franchise in Rebel Moon, that I guess Netflix is going to do a bunch of other things also. You know, there was a tease that Zack Snyder gave us. I believe that one of the characters in the Army of the Dead animated series was supposed to be, I think, in one of the Rebel Moon movies.
Oh.
Um, Yes, connecting those worlds. He has not been shy about emphasizing the idea that there is a connection between Rebel Moon and his Army of the Dead universe, which, if you recall, Stuart, watching Army of the Dead, there were some interesting Easter eggs in that film that surrounded robots, possible aliens of some sort. So the question I have is, will they eventually connect? Or do you think Zack Snyder truly is on to bigger and better things, and maybe the Army of the Dead stuff doesn't get revisited? Or is there a world that we live in where, surprise, surprise, they're connected overall?
I could see the zombie outbreak being caused by something from outer space. It's something that can be
Mhm.
subtle, that they don't have to explore too deeply. They don't have to make like a full movie to show how it's connected, but just rather a one-off statement saying, "Oh yeah, it's a disease that spread from one planet to another. Some planets were able to contain it, some planets weren't." Something like that.
I would dig that. I think there's a huge possibility that he eventually does eventually come back around to an Army of the Dead franchise and builds off of that with maybe what's been established in Rebel Moon. Look, if you remember Army of the Dead, one of the first sequences when they're in the desert and I think they're leaving the military base. I think if you look closely, I do think you see like alien lights or ships like in the sky or something like that to emphasize some sort of aliens. There's other sequences in the movie too. Some of the zombies have like glowing eyes, which almost sparks shooting out of them when they get shot, sort of thing, to
Yeah.
emphasize maybe they're like androids or robots, sort of thing. But none of that stuff is brought up in the movie at all. So there's a lot of Easter eggs here. So I am kind of hoping that Zack Snyder pulls a fantastic one and ends up connecting these eventually. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
asking for too much though.
I don't think you are. I think there's a good chance. He seems like the kind of guy that would love to have fun. He's like, you know what? I didn't get to play in the DC universe, so now I get to play in my own universe with my own rules.
Yeah, absolutely. Marcelino says it's funny. My question started out as Jupiter Legacy, but Adam turned it into Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon, just because of the fact. And and it's not to disregard your question or anything, Marcelino, but I think it's just proving a much bigger point here, in a sense that Netflix does have a lot of ambitious plans for a lot of its IP, and sometimes it just hits a brick wall. And I think Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon maybe have another chance of building upon what Jupiter Legacy couldn't, or it could fall flat and nothing happen and it becomes another Jupiter Legacy. So I do think that there's some connective tissues between those two for sure. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? She says, if any comic book, novel, or cartoon, what would you like to see adapted into a movie, and how would you do it? I don't know how I would do it, but I want a Silverhawks movie,
Ooh,
a
okay.
classic 1980s movie. Give me a sci-fi adventure of Silverhawks, and I still want my Voltron. I need Voltron adapted in some way or manner.
I think that could make an awesome live action movie. Um, what I love about getting this question is that my answer will change literally every single time. It just
Yeah.
depends on what I'm thinking of at the moment. Currently, did you ever read the oh, actually I got two answers right now. Did you ever read the Bone comic book? I think it was just
Bone?
called Bone.
Uh-huh. Was
Yeah.
like just like he's like kind of a cartoonish looking character.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
exists in this like kind of fantasy world. I would
Yes.
love to see that being adapted into a movie. I think you could potentially tell that whole story in the format of one movie, but if you wanted to play it safe, maybe two or three, you could make it a trilogy. But I think that would be a fun series to adapt. The other one, just because I just finished reading this, I started a little bit ago. Actually, I think I started like 2 months ago, read the first 4 volumes. I had to take a huge break because, like, holy crap, they were so intense. But Berserk, I just finished all 14 volumes of the Berserk manga, and that I think would make for a great live action series or an anime, because we've gotten a couple anime adaptations, but like they've never really gone past the golden age, and except for the 2016 anime, which was really, really bad. I tried watching the first episode and I couldn't even finish it. So I would love to see Berserk get adapted into either a movie or a good anime.
Yeah, I saw you post your Berserk collection up there, man. That's pretty impressive. When I think of Berserk, though, I think of Keanu Reeves. Am I thinking of the wrong Berserk, or is that still connected?
Definitely not that Berserk. Or
Okay,
wait,
okay.
what were you? I'm
Does
curious
doesn't
what you're
Keanu
thinking of
Reeves?
now.
I thought Keanu Reeves had like a Berserker comic book or something like that. Am I tripping?
He
I
might
thought
have a
he like wrote something.
oh, not that I know of. Yeah, no, as far as I know, has he
Berserker
ever?
movie. Oh, BRZRKR, a comic follows an immortal warrior known as Berserker as he
Oh,
fights
okay.
through. Okay, so that's a different.
It's a
Okay.
different thing. That makes sense.
Ram Jam says he would love to see a Bucky O'Hare movie. That would be pretty interesting. A rabbit, I dig it. If anything, I will even throw another one out there. One that I've mentioned a couple times on Twitter, and it's gotten no traction. An old Image comic. For those of you who don't know, I think it's still currently running. Savage Dragon
Hmm.
by Eric Larson, big green dude with a fin, and he's a police officer. I can't remember the city, but they've got some outrageous characters. But I used to love Savage Dragon growing up as a kid. But when I look at it, I just think to myself, how would you even turn that into a live action adaptation of anything?
What?
I have no idea, but it was bananas, Stuart. I mean, like it truly was. It was Eric Larson really pulled no punches, especially back in the 90s when Image Comics were as raw as it gets. But it was always a really great, compelling story. I always thought with some really fun characters. So yeah, I would always love to have seen Savage Dragon brought to live action, but I just think the cost of it. I think the reason why it's not never even brought up or people don't even have any traction towards it is like CGI would be through the roof, prosthetics and makeup would be crazy. I just think it would be so CGI heavy. I just don't know if you would make your money back on it on a property like that. But I've always been intrigued.
Oh my god, I want to start reading this now. This looks amazing.
Yeah, I would
So-
I would recommend it. It's been out for years. There are over 100, 200 issues already, but
Ooh.
I say go back to the original stuff. That's where I fell in love with it. I remember reading all the way from 1 to 100 and eventually wind up falling off, but I was always a Savage Dragon fan for sure.
Savage Dragon meets the Ninja Turtles. That's hella
Yes.
sick. Oh
Yes.
god, there's one cover. I am 90% sure has to have been done by Rob Liefeld because his head is super tiny, but his body is so freaking huge. These covers though, it's funny. Like there's comic books that'll like push the limit of what you're allowed to show in the comic book, and then there's covers that'll push the limit of what you can show on a cover of a comic book, which tends to have a lot more strict. And this thing definitely, or this series seems to really love flirting with that line.
Yeah, that's Savage Dragon for you. This is Savage Dragon for you.
Oh, okay, I'm
Um,
adding this to my list. This looks awesome.
let's see here. Next, we've got Jessica Friedman. Has there been any progress on casting for the new Jonathan Entwistle Power Ranger reboot? And do you think Cosmic Fury should have been more than 10 episodes? I was cool with the 10 episode length. Honestly, I thought the pacing worked out pretty well. There are some moments, especially in the first couple episodes, I think the pacing is too quick. I probably would have liked, as the season progresses, I think there are moments when characters get some sit down opportunities to just kind of talk things out and what's going on, type of thing. I probably could have used a little bit more of those, but I think 10 episodes worked for it. But I wouldn't have any pushback against anybody that wanted, say, like 13 episodes or anything like that, just to flesh things out a little bit more. But I was cool with it. As far as any casting on Jonathan Entwistle's movie, I don't believe so. I think maybe just some rumors and speculation that might have been thrown out there by Jinsaku a while back. Those might still be decent enough, but I haven't heard any actual names or anything like that for Jonathan Entwistle's Power Rangers. Have you, Stuart?
Oh no, not for Jonathan Whistle's Power Rangers.
And what did you think about Cosmic Fury with 10 episodes? Did you want more? Or did you like the number?
Uh, I thought the number worked, but I will say that I kind of agree with you. The beginning definitely felt rushed, and to me, the very end of the series also kind of felt a little bit rushed. So I think that two more episodes might have helped a little bit. I do agree with you that I think the pacing, everything in between was really good, especially because we had a lot of action, but we also had some really great character moments where characters, like you said, would just, talk with each other, develop that way. So I think it had a great balance of everything in between. I think it was just those two episodes where the lack of, a full season definitely kind of showed.
Yeah, I agree. So again, I wouldn't mind. It wouldn't have hurt me if they added 2 or 3 more episodes. But I think overall, what we got was certainly worth it.
Mhm.
Johnny, what's up, Johnny? Do you think in Darkest Hour or somewhere down the line we could see Kimberly become a Red Ranger? Because in the latest issue, 114, she acted like a leader. I'm not going to say it's out of the realm of possibility. I haven't really honestly kept up with Power Rangers in a minute, but first off, kudos to Power Rangers even making 114 issues, bro. I think that's a marvelous feat in and of itself in the day and age where comic books get rebooted like every 2 or 3 years. But the fact that they've continued on this long is impressive and just tells you something about their level of storytelling. But I have not followed it recently. But with them taking more liberties and really separating itself from the television series, I could see something like that happening. Could MMPR The Return lead into a new ongoing series after its limited run? I will say no. I don't. I would say no, just because my initial thought is one. I don't know if Amy Jo Johnson wants to come back, or even her boyfriend would want to come back and do writing for it. Because if I am going to do an ongoing series, I'm going to keep those two attached to it. You could have Boom Studios could do whatever they want and bring in a brand new creative team for it. Maybe using MMPR The Return sort of as establishing the beginning of it and then have somebody else take over. But I would prefer Amy and her boyfriend to come back to write it. What do you think? Do you think it's got a chance of becoming an ongoing series, Stuart?
I doubt it. It sounds like this was a series written just to be a limited run, and that was it. Maybe if it does really well, and if the two of them are into it, like if they had a lot of fun, I could see them coming back for it. But for now, I just see it being a limited series.
We also have. He also asks, with the upcoming Power Ranger reboot, who would you cast as a female Red Ranger? For me, it would be either these amazing actresses, Annika Foreignert, Kylie Cantrell, Ashley Liao, Emma Nasfell, or Dora Dolphin. Also, thanks for liking my theory on Cosmic Fury and Villains of Valley View being the same show. I have done a fan casting video for my Jonathan Entwistle cast. I think when I did my casting announcement, my fan casting, I'm still gonna stick with her in this. Kiernan Shipka, who played Sabrina Spellman in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on the Netflix series. I still say Kiernan Shipka as my female Red Ranger. Did you have any fan casting for a female Red Ranger at all, though, Stuart? Yeah, anybody that came to mind for you?
Currently, only because she doesn't look like she's aging anytime soon. She looks like she's been the same age for a while. Jenna Ortega, I think, would make a pretty
Mm.
good Red Ranger as well.
Yeah, hell, I would even take I think I mentioned Sadie West, I believe, from Stranger Things, the redhead. I think she
Oh
plays
yeah,
Max.
yeah,
I've really enjoyed her in her series. She was even in a Fear Street 1984 movie, I think it was. I thought she was great in too. When I fan casted Sadie, I had her as the Green Ranger, like the additional sixth Ranger. But I would be open to her taking the mantle as the Red Ranger too.
Oh, hang on, I gotta look up her name real quick, but there's another one. Because she was in Picard. She played Data's daughter in Picard. I wouldn't have been able to see her playing like kind of a younger character, like a high school character, until recently when I saw Goosebumps. Oh, Issa uh uh Briones? Issa Briones, I think that's her name. But Issa Briones, I also think would make a good Power Ranger.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think if I've seen her before. She looks super familiar,
Yeah, it was funny
okay.
because I couldn't have pictured her as a high schooler up until like recently. There was a Goosebumps series that came to Disney Plus, and I saw her in it. And I actually, yeah, you know what? I
Oh
bought her as a high schooler.
yes,
I thought she was good in that.
that's why she looks familiar because I did see the first two episodes of the Goosebumps series. And she's like the main character's like friend, right? That's like
Yeah,
stuck in that weird triangle of like friendship, but I like you, but you've got a girlfriend sort of weird thing.
exactly.
Yeah, she actually really stood out to me too. I actually kind of really liked her as in that series from what I saw so far. So yeah, I would definitely stamp of approval for that one too. And she's only 24 years old, so it's a possibility that she can definitely continue to play that young of a character. Doomsday, what's up, Doomsday? Do you think that Power Rangers should have done their own Red Ranger handoffs at the end of each season, much like how Super Sentai did their own? I would have fucking loved it, Stuart.
Mhm.
I think that would have been so cool. I don't think it's needed, but it would have been pretty cool.
100% agree. That would have been cool if we could have gotten stuff like that. But yeah, unfortunately, I feel like they don't plan ahead as much as Sentai does, so they don't know by the end of the season who's going to be the next Red Ranger. They film way before they announce it. You know.
Yeah, that's true. Um, Also, Doomsday says, do you feel that Troy's only peak moment throughout Megaforce was during his battle against Dark Robo Knight? Because throughout the show, Troy was seen as a little stiff and robotic, but in that episode, Troy actually showed a lot more emotion. But then afterwards, he somehow went back to feeling stiff and robotic. I mean, that might have been his only moment. Um,
I feel like the only time the writers tried to give him something to do.
Yeah, I felt like they really wanted him to be like kung fu master leader at times. And I say that because I feel like we saw a lot of moments of Troy just practicing on his own, whether it be in
Mm.
the woods, in the gym, just stoic by himself, practicing, meditating by his lonesome. And it didn't make me look at him like, oh, that makes you so much cooler, bro. Yeah, it
It
didn't do
just made
that
it
for me.
boring.
Yeah, it just made you boring to me.
What's so funny to hear is that like the writers of Power Rangers at the time, from basically from Samurai all the way to Ninja Steel, they said the one that they were the most disappointed with is the ones that the fans I think will all agree was the best, which is Brandon Mejia's Tyler from Dino Charge. Apparently, if you ask the fan base between those four seasons, I'm sure everyone's going to say he was the best Red Ranger out of the four of them. Apparently, when you ask the writing team, they were like, "Oh yeah, he's the one we were the most disappointed with."
Who, Brennan?
Yeah, because
Really?
simply because I guess they just don't like having Red Rangers with personality, which is so bizarre to me.
Yeah, I guess not. I actually remember watching a clip of Brendan Mejia talking about filming a particular scene with Shelby in his Jeep. And he was talking about how, I guess he was doing a reaction to it. And he was breaking down like how that scene was shot and how he was going through his head. Like, he's going through his head like how he wants to tackle it, right? He says, because I looked at Shelby and she seemed to have such emotion and what she was saying. And he's like, I wanted to come with my own emotion, and make it feel really good. And he says, so I did. And he says, when I got done with it, he was like, I nailed it. He was like, you could just see in my eyes the emotion and how we were talking to each other, just to build up that character development. And he said, after the camera said cut, they were like, maybe less emotion. Can you give me like maybe don't work as hard? Like, and they didn't
Yeah.
say that specifically, but the way he emphasized the idea that they were not pleased with his take in that moment just shows you the ass backwardsness that Power Rangers was during the time of like, no, maybe less acting, okay? Like, what?
Yeah. I think it's just like Saban had this thing where he just like thought the Red Ranger has to be like, I don't know. Maybe it's like the Red Ranger just has to be the perfect, the perfect emotionless character, I guess. Or
Maybe
maybe
that
like it could also be that he's trying to make the Red Ranger too much of an insert character type of thing, which doesn't always work, especially in like a team show,
you might be right. I think there's an element of trying to portray like maybe the quiet guy is very much like the strong man sort of mentality, doesn't say much but carries a big stick mentality. Like maybe that's what it is. But I also think this might be a combination too of what you said. It maybe became an insert character that you want the fans to feel like they could be these characters at any time, sort of thing. But yeah, it just failed miserably at times.
Oh yeah.
Um, let's see. The most talented man alive. I suck my own balls is here. Felicia Hardy. He says, the character Felicia Hardy, who ends up being a version of Black Cat in the Spider-Man comics, even the old animated series. The character herself made her live action debut in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, played by actress Felicity Jones. Originally, she was going to be Peter Parker's love interest in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4 if Sony hadn't decided to reboot the franchise after the trilogy. If if I had if we had gotten a fourth Spider-Man film with Tobey Maguire, would you like to see her be as a new love interest of Peter? Especially since in the comics she was known as one of the people to take Peter. She was one of the people take Peter give up being Spider-Man after going through a hard time. In a supposed film, this version of her wouldn't have become Black Cat, and she would have been played by Anne Hathaway, which I think in recent articles this week, I think Anne Hathaway did recently come out and talk about her time as potentially being Black Cat. Instead, Raimi's Felicia was expected to become a new superpowered figure called the Vultress. Blah, that sounds stupid. What do you think, though, Stuart?
I was hooked up until like that last part where it's her
Vultress?
becoming the Vultress. That's so dumb. But I mean, her role in the movie would have been kind of perfect because like MJ and Peter left things off very rocky at the end of Spider-Man 3. So it would have been kind of cool to see like, maybe that bridge is burned. So now he's probably trying to be romantic with someone who maybe he can connect with more because she may not be a superhero, but she knows what it's like to like put your life on the line a lot because from being a supervillain. I think that could have been a cool thing, like they connect more, but she's clearly a bad influence on him. I also could see them playing with the whole thing of if he were to go back with MJ, it would mean that he has to work harder, not only to get her forgiveness, but also to, just be a better person altogether. Whereas like Felicia could play that role of the relationship that's easy, but also very bad for him. So I think there could have been a good dynamic there. I just don't like the idea of her becoming the Vultress or even having a connection with the main villain. I think like she should have been like her own thing, kind of separate from the main villain. And then it should have just played into like Peter's overall arc for taking down the villain.
Marcelino, let's say he says, I heard that the reason that Anne Hathaway would have become the Vultress is because Spider-Man killed the old G Vulture, who was her father. Interesting. I don't remember her that in the movie per se, but if you can explain it in the movie world, maybe you can get it to work. I think for me, Black Cat is one of those like those travesties of like we should have had this character already. And it almost feels like we've just always undercut the character's debut with a reboot of some sort. And it's a real unfortunate event to have happened, because I do think of Felicia Hardy as Black Cat would be amazing in a Spider-Man movie. And I'll even say this, Stuart, I will make a prediction that we see Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat, in our next Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. I think now that we are at a position where Peter is alone, he doesn't have his buddies. He clearly still loves MJ, but he can't tell her about him and what's happened. I do think that that leaves a huge void there. Look, it could be filled by a Gwen Stacy. It could be filled with a Betty Ross. I believe that was her name, right? In the Betty Brant, maybe was it Betty Brant? I can't remember. Or it could leave the door open for Felicia Hardy. And I would absolutely love for her to now pop up and sort of be this influence in Peter's life that may not necessarily be the healthiest. But I do think that there's a great story and a fun story to certainly tell between those two, especially with Tom Holland. Because I think he's going to have great chemistry, whoever that Black Cat ends up being. I'm talking like it's going to happen. I just have this feeling that it's about time. We've had so many Spider-Man movies. There's no way Black Cat should not be in at least one of these iterations. Make it happen, Marvel Studios. So I do think that we'll get a Black Cat in Spider-Man 4 here.
I'm curious if this would be a hot take or not, but I would totally be down to see Felicity Jones take up that role again if Marvel wanted to give her another shot at it, because she kind of got screwed over from the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
How old is Felicity Jones right
now?
She is 40 years old.
Wait, really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
40 years old. I did like her in Rogue One, but that time might have. How old is Tom Holland?
Tom Holland's like 20. I think he's like 2 years younger than me, so he's like 26 or something.
20,
so there's like a 14-year difference. So there might be like a noticeable difference if they're like standing next to each other. Who knows?
Yeah, she's rocking the cradle at that point.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Last but not least, Melissa Benoist loves bacon. AJ's coming through with the question. What would you have thought if you had a second season of Zeo instead of Power Rangers Turbo? Since all know that Turbo itself was a huge disappointment to many fans who wanted Lord Zed and Rita to fulfill their promise of returning, and the complete removal of Alpha 5 and Zordon, especially with the Zeo powers being dropped for no reason. Look, I have not revisited Power Rangers Turbo in like 20 years. It's been such a long time. I will say yes to a second season of Zeo every day of the week. But to be fair, I might want to rewatch Power Rangers Turbo just to be on the safe side if I stick with that. But as of right now, yeah, more Zeo would have been my route personally, especially because AJ, I literally just watched your TikTok page yesterday, and you had a clip from Power Rangers Turbo, and it was the monster was making the Power Rangers into a pizza inside of an oven, throwing onions and pepperonis and green peppers in it. I'm just like, nah, this ain't it. This ain't it. So give me Zeo season 2.
Oh, what about you, Stuart? That episode had like one of the best out of context lines. A slice of it was like an evil slice was no stop for a simple red light or something like that. I can't remember the exact line, but it was something along those lines. And oh my god, it's so great.
There's even a line from TJ at the end of the Forever Red movie. He's like, "Do you guys remember? Did I ever tell you guys a story about the time I was turned into a pizza or some shit like that? Like just from that episode." So yeah, give me Zeo season 2.
Mm-hmm.
My take, he says, Prince Gasket, King Mondo's oldest son, returns for revenge after the previous Machine Empire's fall with his own generals and way of creating monsters, many of them being a cross between machines and organic. Zeo's Zords were destroyed, but Billy created brand new Zords using Zord footage from Jetman. That would have been pretty cool. There were even some monsters you could give Rita and Zed to actually do something with the We're Back promise. Plus, really, Gasket and Arc Arena were better than both Mondo and Divatox. Maybe Gray would be Vengix. If we had gotten a second season of Zeo, this would have allowed Adam to use his green Zeo powers during Always a Chance, though he would still use the damage Mastodon powers as a way to help Carlos, which the episode itself would play the same. Yeah, because I love that episode of Adam using the Mastodon powers. I was like, what balls? Like that's an
Mhm.
episode that really put, not that Adam wasn't on the map before for me, but it really separated him for me from the rest of the cast and crew.
Oh yeah. I know it's like people will critique this type of writing because it's like a writer's way of basically having plot armor do exactly what it needs it to. But to me, it just always adds more tension when the characters are just as in the dark of how dangerous it is as we as the
Mm.
audience, because we don't know. And to me, I think that like, yes, it can be used as an excuse for lazy writing, but I think the way they utilized it in there was like so perfect because we're on the edge of our seats. We're like, oh God, I hope Adam knows what he's doing here.
Yeah,
And
for
yeah,
real.
you know, I thought, yeah, I agree. That was such a great episode.
But yeah, man, that will do it for all of our live viewer questions today. I do want to refresh this page just to make sure we didn't miss anything. Nope, we got all 8 questions. So awesome. Thank you guys so much for everybody that certainly participated in our live viewer question segment today. We really appreciate it. And of course, we look forward to more of your guys' questions next week. Although now that I think about it, next week will be Christmas Eve, Stuart. I
Ooh,
don't know
I'm
if you
definitely not going to make it.
yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if you'll be available or not. Maybe I might just do a quick solo dolo episode next week of Hero Report. But I'll see what Indy's schedule is like. I know a lot of people are gonna be preparing for the holidays, so maybe not. But I'll keep you guys posted. At least by next weekend, you'll know whether or not are we good to go for an episode of Hero Report or if we're gonna skip it for the holidays. But I'll definitely keep you guys posted.
That said, if we do it early enough, I can do New Year's Eve. If
Okay.
that'd be on a Sunday, right? New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that has to be on a Sunday too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I could do it if we do it like early enough.
Okay, so we'll let you guys know for sure. Definitely expect one for New Year's Eve, but we'll definitely keep you posted on Christmas Eve. But again, I might just do something small and solo dolo. I was supposed to edit this most anticipated movies video. I have not gotten a chance to get to it yet. I will though. So I will have it up at least before Christmas, or maybe that'll be our Christmas present
Actually, yeah.
to you guys.
Instead of doing a full hero report, we just do our top 5 most anticipated movies of
Yeah,
2024.
yeah, maybe that's something that we'll do. So we'll definitely have a video for you guys for our Christmas present to you guys for sure. But other than that, that will wrap it up here for Hero Report. We're probably going to have to take a step back and figure out what shows are coming up beginning 2024, what we want to review, certainly as a channel, any big upcoming movies for you guys to look forward to for our reviews for. We got Aquaman 2 that's going to be dropping here relatively soon. You could definitely expect a review from me at least, and then maybe hopefully a spoiler review for you guys for Aquaman. We've got some other great movies in theaters right now that I definitely want to check out, like The Iron Claw. As a big wrestling fan, I want to learn more about the Von Erichs family, so certainly go ahead and check that out. I think we've got The Color Purple that might be in theaters or will be dropping relatively soon also as a musical. So some really great movies to go ahead and finish off this year. But a lot more to look forward to, guys. But thank you so much for continuing to enjoy our content. If you haven't hit that like button already, please go ahead and do yourselves a favor and do so. It doesn't take much for you guys to certainly help us out in that way. Feel free to share these videos and let people know about Hero Report. Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, if you're still on social media, where can they find you, sir?
You guys can find me on Instagram at TurboStew01.
And if you want to find us, as you can clearly see, at APlus Opinions all across social media. We are on Threads, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as well. You can find us if you have audio podcasts that you like to listen to. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. We're there as well. And follow us on TikTok also. But until then, guys, that's going to do it for us here. We'll certainly see you next week. But until then, do us a big favor as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.